Defining Duke is brought to you by Chime. Your online checking account shouldn't cost you money. That's why Chime, an award-winning app and debit card, has no overdraft fees, foreign transaction fees, monthly service fees, or transfer fees. Of course, I'm going to McDonald's, getting that 4-piece nugget. I got a soda. I'm feeling great about myself until I check my bank account. Then I'm not feeling so good because I had overdrafted, of course. And if I was a part of Chime, this wouldn't have been an issue. So it's time to say goodbye to hidden fees. Join the millions of Americans already loving Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and it doesn't affect your credit score. Get started today at chime.com/Duke. That's chime.com/Duke. Banking services provided by and debit card issued by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank N.A. Members FDIC. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees apply except at MoneyPass ATM in a 7-Eleven location and at any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. Other fees such as third-party and cash deposit fees may apply. Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to episode 40 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. As always, I'm joined by Xbox's sneakerhead, Lord Cognito.
We're going to talk about that today. Matty, what's up? The Duke's in the building. Let's go. Let's go. I see that crispy IOP on. Ooh, it's funny. I wore Dukes today, so we was just, we was in a good
it's funny,
mindset.
Right? I almost wore that shirt, and I was like, no, I told Cog 2 weeks ago I was going to wear this, but then my other Xbox hoodie came in, which then I wore last week. I was like, all
which
right.
is fire.
Yeah. I've gotten some fine hoodies lately, like this one and the Xbox one for the 20th anniversary.
Respect.
Really happy with what I'm sporting lately.
Respect.
I'm gonna go work out in this afterwards, by the way. So I want to be repping you in the gym.
Talk about health as well. Put the hashtag
Absolutely.
up. Let's
go. Anyway, we hope everyone who's listening is doing well. We appreciate you tuning in. We had a great week last week. Our podcast did quite well. For those who hadn't checked it out, Jeff Grubb joined us. We'll be talking about that in a little bit, but be sure to give that a listen because some of the insight there was really good. But anyway, just thank you to everyone who's been listening to our show lately. We've seen the numbers climb a little bit, and we appreciate you joining us. So for those who want to support us the extra steps further, you can go to patreon.com/laststandmedia, where early access to this show goes live on Thursdays. Otherwise, it'll hit free feeds on Sunday. So you can get the video version there on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel. I never mentioned this, but that also goes out early on the Patreon for those who aren't joined up there. Also, you can get access to our Ultimate show, Defining Duke Ultimate. We just did episode 36. It was Cog and I. Surprisingly, no Chris Reagan in a Halo episode.
Chris, where you at?
Yeah, I know, right? We got to make up for lost time soon. We played Big Team Battle. We went all in on the flight. We revisited our concerns for the campaign and if they are valid after such a resounding positive reception to the flight. So if you want all of that for about an hour and change, that show is up for you right now. So go ahead, give it a look.
Go get that.
Also, just to thank you again for the mobile ratings. 5 stars on iTunes goes a very long way. I just always urge our audience, as you know, we're still solidifying, like it's me and you, Cog, right? Like half the show is Carrick and I. So continue to write in those reviews. 5 stars helps a lot in moving us up the charts. And we sincerely appreciate that support, especially. But other than that, let's get into it before we begin. So these are sort of the comments, concerns, little housekeeping, if you will. First of all, in addition to our show, so 2 weeks ago, we asked you all if you wanted a section on what games we were playing, and the feedback was really loud. You wanted that. So that is what we're going to do. It's going to be put at the beginning of our show before we do our warm-up questions. We're just going to talk about the games we've been playing lately, and then we'll get into our usual role. Of course, provide feedback. If you think this does in a better spot somewhere else, like maybe you think, hey, this should be near Game Pass Pick of the Week, which was something I was toying with, let us know. We don't want to disrupt the pacing of the show or hold off the news, so I just want to put it in the front of the show first so you can all get a feel for it. And if that's where it works, that's where it works. But, of course, thank you for your feedback on that. Excited to share what games we've been playing, what we've been digging as of lately. This next one goes to you, Cog.
Yo.
Austin Powell writes in, "Hi, guys. I just wanted to compliment Lord Cognito on his continually upbeat attitude. I feel like there's so much negativity and complaining in the games industry. It's a breath of fresh air to have a positive voice to listen to. I also appreciate that he doesn't create a mountain out of a molehill with the constant onslaught of controversies. The power of positivity is real. Keep up the great work, guys."
Bro, salute, Austin. Thank you. Thank you for that. Very, very kind. Very kind. Yeah, I'm just trying to take it back to the essence, man. Like I'm from the days, you see another gamer, you like, yo, that's my bro, that's my sis. We do the same thing, like, I'm just tired of the separate, mentalities and cultures. And bro, it's gaming. Like, this bring us together, have fun. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree.
I'm from that, and I'm always gonna be about that. So yes, there's gonna be issues. We have to get serious sometimes, but at the end of the time, like, this is gaming. This is what we do to escape and have fun. So
I'm with you entirely. I think that's what makes our show really good. And I think what happens is a lot of people are afraid to get that positive because they think it removes their ability to be critical. And it's like, no, you can be critical without being an asshole, is what I always say. So
I agree with that.
Next one's a very interesting write-in. I've gotten it from this particular person a decent amount of times. And now that it's come into the Patreon, I was like, all right, I can actually answer this. Furry Purple Haze writes in, "Hey, Dukes. I highly doubt my question will make it into the next episode as they haven't made it through in a while, and I stopped trying. But is there any chance that the rest of us get a better shot at getting a turn to ask a question? Let me explain. On both ham radio as well as this podcast," I'm not going to name the person, "gets on literally every episode with a write-in. I, as well as many others, have important questions too, and I don't think it's right we pay money so we can ask questions and support the channel, yet one person's write-ins gets shit-canned every week because of favoritism. I love the show, I love the guests, and you guys do a phenomenal job at what you do. I love being a part of this show's success by supporting it. This is the only patron I have because I love the show that much. Please be more considerate and give others a shot. Thank you guys for all you do, and hope you have a Maury Povich, you are not the father kind of day." All right, so this comes from a place of love.
Yes.
But I want to make something clear.
Let's go.
Number one, when I pick the write-ins, there is zero favoritism. The only thing I favorite is proper English here. So if you are writing in something concise, but also equally as importantly, topical, there's a really strong chance that you get featured. Not only that, I know our selection is diverse because we do 5 in the beginning, 5 at the end, and we include you in the news section if your write-in is topical. Not only that, we get probably the least write-ins across LSM currently when it comes to our questions. These last 2 weeks have been great for us. This week we only got like 25 because nothing really has been popping off.
Right.
So when people write in, there's a really good chance you get picked for our show because we have less to pick from and we pretty much use everyone. So this is just false. Like, I don't know how else to say it. The only thing I favorite, like I said, is proper English. I can read your comment because, as everyone knows, I stutter and stumble over my words a little bit here. But beyond that, it's if you're topical, you get picked. It's just that simple because it gives Cog and I a window to talk to you and have something that fits well. But I don't want to monologue too much here. Anything you want to add?
No, you've been on fire. I mean, one thing about you, I always respect the selections that you pick from. I always feel it's varied. Listen, like you said, when the pool is what the pool is, there's going to be some repeats, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's nothing out of favoritism. It's nothing out of malice. You know what I'm saying? Matty got love for you, at the end of the day. But what I will respect, shout out to Fuzzy, in the sense that, it's definitely coming from a place of love. He definitely has a lot of love for the show, and clearly wants to have his questions right. But like I said, just get I don't know if it's him specifically, but like you said, the English with everybody, with their questions, make sure things are right grammatically. And like I said, there's a good chance you will be in the mix. Matty does a good job with that stuff, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for ham radio, on a separate note, that's the much smaller show I run on my personal channel. It's a live show. We do live call-in. So if anyone's interested in that, please check it out. It's been doing well and people are liking what we're building there. It's kind of new. So there's some growing pains there, but it's been doing well. And like for that, there's only so many write-ins we get. It goes through my Patreon instead of, in our case, thousands here on Last Stand, where I have like 400 people, which is really great. But the community's a lot tighter and smaller there. So you're going to see some overlap. The other thing is also, I just want to make this clear with write-ins is I don't like to go back to the well constantly with people who are asking like, what back compat games would you add to the list? What's your favorite Xbox game? What should I download on Game Pass? There's a lot of those that get written in, which is why we have Game Pass Pick of the Week, for example. It's why we have those segments that exist to sort of weed out those questions, but sometimes they come in anyway. So those are the other ones I will honestly ignore. It's just like, we need to, and I'm not cranking on anyone in particular. I'm just, so the audience knows how I look at it is like, we need stuff that's topical, that's refreshing, that's not just like going back to the Game Pass well. There are certain conversations we have like, hey, should Xbox buy this or that? And some conversations will go that way in the comments. And it depends. If you're posing something new, there's a really good chance you get selected. Because again, we don't get a ton of write-ins. So
nice.
I just wanted to tackle that.
Like the criteria explanation. Respect.
Of course. Now for our new segment. Let's get into the fun stuff. What we are playing. We got a number of games here. Cog, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump it off, man. I was on Twitter and I saw a couple people on my timeline and it was like some motorcycle game. I was like, yo, what is that? That thing looks amazing. And I ain't gonna lie, like I used to be back in the day, I used to be like a MotoGP guy. I used to be
new. This is new to me. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. It's an interesting story because MotoGP was I was part of the Xbox Live Alpha test when it first came out. So Cognito, I kept my name for all these years. Like I've had it since way back, right?
Nice.
So one of the early alpha games for Xbox Live testing was MotoGP. And at the time, OG Xbox, you had custom soundtracks. It was online versus so I was like, yo, I kind of getting into this motorcycle racing thing. So I saw this game. I'm like, yo, this game looks beautiful. It's called Ride 4. Now, full disclosure, it's very bare bones. You know what I'm saying? It's very like this I just wanted to see because I think it recently got like a next gen patch. And that's why people are posting it up on Twitter. And if you put this thing like in the handlebar or like close up mode, oh my God, it's a looker. This is a joint that you will showcase your Xbox Series X or your PS5, especially with the rain and how you hit the corner. It's a beautiful looking game in that mode. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, look, hey, I got a little $20 to spend. I just want to see what this thing can do. Yeah, I was kind of impressed. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with it long term.
Yeah, this is the one that was going around that people were like, wait, this is a game when it's in first person? Yeah.
Bro, it looks beautiful. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you right now, it's on PS5, it's on Series X. They just got a next gen patch. I'm like, wait a minute, this game apparently had been out already. So that's that. So I took it there. And then I actually went back to Trumbull, man. Trumbull Valley and State of Decay. Yeah, man. I haven't touched it in a while. I haven't really touched it since the 60 frames update. Looks absolutely stunning. Like just the movement is great. And then the feels of the State of Decay 1 map. And they got a little narrative component now. So I was like, okay, State of Decay. Yeah. So that was that. So the Juggernaut edition, shout out to that. A lot of good updates. And of course, Destiny. Destiny's popping out here in these streets. Come on, man. Getting ready for the witch cream. Getting ready for the story. I'm trying to find out all these things that's going on with Savathun. And it's just a great story what's happening right now. So it's every week. It's tune in next week. And then you're going to see what's going to happen.
I kind of like that. That's sick.
I like it, bro. It's just because what it is, it allows me to play other stuff because I'll get all my stuff done, my busy work, my homework, and then it advances the story up to a point, and then it'll say, okay, you got everything done for now for the story, and then kind of next week. So what about you? What's been going on with what you playing?
So if you've been paying attention to my channel, you'll know that Wednesday, I dropped 2 videos within 4 hours very early in the morning. Funny story behind this.
Let's get it.
So originally this Battlefield preview was going to be earlier, but it was pushed back because, of course, with the delay of the game, they wanted to give it more time. And so what happened was that the Guardians of the Galaxy preview was going to go live the same day as the Battlefield preview. I was like, oh, that sucks. Then they delayed the Battlefield one. I'm like, yes, like it's got its own day now. Nice. I can spread the wealth a little bit. Love that stuff.
Nice.
Far Cry comes in. Start reviewing that, playing that. And then Battlefield comes in. They're like, hey, guess what? We're doing the beta now. And they're like, we go live October 6th, the same fucking day that Far Cry's embargo listed. I'm like, yo, god damn.
You can't catch a break, bro, as a content creator.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, man, that would have been really nice to have those two prepared. And I got Thursday off as well, and I could focus on other things. But whatever, all good. I managed to play 3 hours of Battlefield 2042 before the open beta went live to the public. It was a preview capture session.
Make sure y'all go to the Mr. Matty Plays on
yes.
YouTube channel. It's up right now. The video's
It is.
fire. I watched
you.
all of it. Thank you. Great job. Great job.
Thank you. Same thing with my Far Cry review. We'll talk about that in a sec. But for those who don't feel like going over there, Battlefield 2042 is going to be good, I think. It's a lot more buggy than I think many people anticipated. And I'm now, after playing like COD and Battlefield and Halo's got it, man.
Ooh,
they got it. Yeah.
That's a big take. That's a big take, bro.
They got it. Multiplayer. Multiplayer.
Yes.
You know, who knows how the single player goes out, but Halo has easily the most refreshing, enjoyable. It feels the most polished. It's there. It's there. So that's one thing this preview taught me. I didn't mention this in my preview because I didn't want to turn into like a shit slinging war.
Yeah.
But that's something I did take away from it. Battlefield 2042, however, is a lot of fun. I love the dynamic weather element. So you got these twisters that are just blazing around the battlefield. When you combine that with this new dynamic class system, I call it, where you can be the assault class. So you'll have like a grapple shot, but you can take the medic healing crate with you. And then while you're on the battlefield, you can switch out your attachments. So you can have the sniper scope on your sniper rifle. And if you're going into a little CQC, you can take the scope off in real time.
Okay.
I love this mechanic because it allows a little bit more flexibility, but I also think it makes the role structure in the game a bit more complex. I was talking in the comments of the video. Someone said, I liked how previously in Battlefield, everyone would have a set role. Like the engineer does this, and that. Well, this game says like you can sort of mix and match it. What I think this does is allows for a lot more complexity where, as I mentioned before, you can have like a mix and match of all different roles in one person, and your partner can address another set of roles. Like everyone can't do everything. So that's not something to worry about. You just have more flexibility in what you can do and the combinations that you can have. And again, I got to sing the praises of that real-time attachment system.
Yes, I saw that. That was very cool.
Yeah.
And I got to shout you out because what I saw, like the footage you captured of that event really put the dynamic nature of it into my mind, and how like, people, you know, this thing is affecting everything, and either you get out the way, but in your day, people are like running to it just to see.
Yeah, man. I saw in I didn't realize this when I was playing. I must have either just like glazed over it or something. But in the footage, you can see a car just blows right by me and gets pulled into the twister. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even see that. So it's a pretty significant dynamic element. And effectively all of these things that combine between being able to change your attachments in real time and the twister is you get a game that is still Battlefield, but it encourages you to move around a little bit more. And I like that because Battlefield, you'll see the people who sit on the rooftops, they'll sit in the hills, and they'll just sort of pick at you. And I think it can get a little annoying because sometimes Battlefield struggles with like the encounter rates, and you'll just run around going, yo, what's going on?
Yo, what's going on?
You're
Who's ready to fight?
Exactly. And I'm not asking for Call of Duty encounter rates, just a little bit more frequently. My feel is this enables that a little bit more, where you're still able to play Battlefield the way you want to play it, but because you have more options, you're not forced to be like, okay, I'm sniper, I got to be out here.
Yep.
So you can get in there.
I like that. When you explain that, well, I really like that aspect.
Yeah. So Battlefield seems solid, still buggy. So hopefully they can figure that out. I'm still putting it on the money that it's going to be on Game Pass day one. I just feel
you might be on to something, because
it just makes too much sense.
It makes sense. And then I was on the dashboard. I don't know if you checked it out recently. The beta that says it's going to be available for download for us, us common folk. That's not what we play. The rest of us. It actually says, Game Pass Ultimate for the beta. So you have to be a Game Pass Ultimate. Again, doesn't guarantee, but I thought that was interesting that they're promoting, if you're an Ultimate member, you will get in the beta kind of thing. So I was like, interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I mean, I think something's warming up there, and we probably won't know till the end of October, beginning of November, when they already have their pre-orders. Next, Far Cry 6. I put about 25 hours into this, finished it. I was very surprised how many people were in line with what I was thinking to a T, which is it's just very tiresome what Ubisoft is doing. It's overly familiar. It's watered down mechanics from past games. I call it my review masturbatory game design, because the way I looked at it was they just can't fucking get over Far Cry 3, man. Like, they literally can't. There's the flamethrower mission, Cog. They got a mission where you get drunk again, you hallucinate again.
Wow.
It's on an island, a tropical island, like everything. It's like they just, I don't know what happened, but they just can't get over themselves. Like, they can't. And it's continuous. It's cycling over and over. Not only that, I think the story just squanders any potential impact it could have because of the way that Ubisoft just feels the need to tell their stories instead of giving you a linear, maybe 10-hour experience in an open world with lots of things to do. Right. They instead give you a drawn out story through 3 arcs in 3 regions that just cycle characters in and out constantly, where they're not around long enough to actually have said impact. Right. And then they attach certain themes that if you play the game, you'll know what I'm talking about, to characters to make them interesting, but it falls flat on its face. It seems forced. It seems careless even.
Wow.
And so the story just kind of falls flat. And ultimately you're left with what is, I think, for a lot of people, comfort food open world. Yeah. But my biggest takeaway, and I do recommend you check out my video on this, is the bugs. Very, very, very buggy. That's coming from me, by the way. Wow. Y'all know I am the most tolerant bug guy. Yes. I play a lot of these big games. I know how complex they are to make, not like intimately, but I'm just saying I understand. And so I'm a little bit more forgiving of it. I'll always mention it, but I am less apt to get annoyed. This was terrible. Wow. This was terrible. And I liked Cyberpunk, but this was terrible. That's how I look at it.
That's an indictment.
So it was quests were failing a ton. Not going through.
Oh no.
AI was not working. This is all on visual display.
Yeah, I heard the AIs. I've heard things that the AI is not the greatest.
Frame rate drop in, man.
Oh wow.
The other thing was really annoying. Enemies spawning directly on top of me.
Oh
and
no.
It was one of those situations where I was just looking. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but I was looking at some reviews and I was like, how many people are actually paying attention when they're playing these games? And are they just playing and dealing with it? Or how many people are actually looking at when you're actually in combat? You'll see on your map, even though you're undetected, you'll kill someone and you'll see like a red blotch pop up on the mini map.
Oh no.
And they spawn immediately.
I hate stuff
you
like
know
that.
what just happened.
I know. Yeah, that's bad. Wow. Well, yeah, the Far Cry 6, y'all.
Not crazy about it.
One thing I forgot real quick on mine is that I forgot. I have to mention, I'll be remiss, is Cog made his VR debut.
Oh, yes.
And I forgot to mention this in mine. I was just looking, I was like, okay.
Please.
So yeah, I have been the resident VR hater for many years. I have clowned people. I have said I would never do that. And the last point I'll say is, I don't know if you remember that Time magazine article where they showed like VR, they had the kid with the headset, he got his arms out.
Yeah.
Bro, it was so good. I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't want that representing us, right? So I was like anti, for a long time. And I got to shout out a couple people. I got to shout out King. He's always been Team VR. I got to shout out the great Bill Stillwell, who I believe is Oculus now. He's actually the guy that did back compat for Xbox.
Right.
He did what you call Project X Cloud, amongst other things. But anyway, he's with them and he's been telling you, Cog, I'm telling you, you're missing out and next gen. Okay, cool. Finally set this thing up. I'm like, all right, let me do it.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah. Everyone's first reaction.
I was wrong. I was very wrong. Like, when they got me, I'm not even gonna get into a game yet. They got me at the demo. Like, there was a workbench. I was like, Matty, pick you this workbench. It's like futuristic. They got these little cubes, and you're manipulating the cube, and you're holding it in your hand. I'm like, yo, I'm in the room. And then it's like,
I just love how you had a fucking cube on your desk.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, they give you all these little random things to play with. They got like a rocket, and it's flying around my room. I'm like, yo, this is where I'm embarrassed to say. This is probably the most embarrassing, but this is what they got me. So I'm doing all this stuff. Then there's another, like a program. You pick up like a cartridge, you put it in a virtual machine. You press it virtually. a robot comes up, right, to you, right? So you're like, all right, what's up with the robot? What's going on? So the robot put out both his heads. And it's like, so I'm like, what's this? So they tell you to grab the robot head. So then music drops.
Oh my.
And there's a dance sequence, bro. I'm like, yo, but it's so fun. And it's like you gotta twirl the robot around like a partner. Then it's like it lets you go ahead, Cog, do your thing. And I was doing my thing.
Okay.
I ain't gonna front. It was, if anybody could see what I was doing, like from the outside looking in.
Yeah, just someone like completely silent looking through your window, and you're just doing was like a Mass Effect dance in your living room.
Bro, if there's a camera in there, it was probably the most embarrassing. Like, what is that man doing? But I'm not gonna front. The tech has improved dramatically. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Quest 2. I'm very impressed to the point now that, look, your boy, everybody's telling me Half-Life Alyx. People told me last year that was the game of the year.
Yeah, and I gotta play that still.
I have to play it now to see, but just gotta shout that out. And I'm playing the Star Wars game, Vader Immortal, and that was pretty cool. Cool.
That was my go-to. Yeah, that was my go-to, man. I loved Vader Immortal. Just
so you VR? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got the Rift. I got the Rift S. Yeah. I haven't played it much lately because the second that Facebook got really intrusive with Oculus, I just dropped it. I didn't feel comfortable with it. There's a level of having my data, and there's scanning my fucking bedroom, kind of having my data. I was like, you know what? I'll wait till I'm comfortable. I'm not going to never play VR. I got you. But to me, I was just like, you know what? I got other shit to play.
The only point I'll say is
Zuck
valid.
I
know. There's things going on right now. There's things going on for sure. The only thing I will say is I do like the fact that I can separate the my name and my government in Lord Cognito, so it's not visible to anyone. So I like that part, but I understand a lot of people feel the way. But that's all I gotta say.
Right on. Last game I just want to throw out there is ActRaiser Renaissance.
Ooh.
Yes, this came out in the 90s, and I heard about it. Just sounded like such a Matty game. I love like mixing and matching different mechanics in games. Like look at Persona, right? It says life sim, but it's also a great RPG. And so ActRaiser is this tough 2D side scroller, but it's also a god game where you're manipulating your settlements and helping them build. And it's not super in depth because I
remember it. Super Nintendo classic.
Yes, absolutely. For its time, that's the thing. It's so clever. It's so impressive. And they really just brought it, added some more story moments, and developed it a bit more where it's a little more visually appealing. I like it a lot. I really do. I'm 10 hours in. I like it a lot. I didn't get to play it much this week because of Far Cry and Battlefield, but now I'm back to it. I'm playing it on PlayStation. Don't know why Xbox didn't go and get this one. Can't tell you. It's going to be a consistent thing on this show, but the ActRaiser is great. Been digging it a lot. Really looking forward to finishing it.
Nice.
Defining Duke is brought to you by Chime. Your online checking account shouldn't cost you money. That's why Chime, an award-winning app and debit card, has no overdraft fees, foreign transaction fees, monthly service fees, or transfer fees. Of course, as always, I have a high school story prepared for all of you on how I spent too much money and went into an overdraft. So, of course, I'm going to McDonald's, getting that 4-piece nugget, Big Mac, large fry, I got a soda, I'm feeling great about myself until I check my bank account. Then I'm not feeling so good because I had overdrafted, of course. And as a high school student with not a lot of money to my name, overdrafting was such a curse because it's like, oh, here we go again. Now I got to spend even more money to get myself out of the negative. And if I was a part of Chime, this wouldn't have been an issue. So it's time to say goodbye to hidden fees. Join the millions of Americans already loving Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and it doesn't affect your credit score. Get started today at chime.com/Duke. That's chime.com/Duke. Banking services provided by and debit card issued by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank N.A. Members FDIC. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees apply except at MoneyPass ATM in a 7-Eleven location and at any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. Other fees such as third-party and cash deposit fees may apply. All right. Now we got our warm-up questions. Adam Winter is the first one. It's not really a question, but still want to talk about it. Hey, boys. Not really a question here, but I felt the need to write in and give you guys some props. Following last week's episode, I'll admit my perception of Jeff was quite negative due to the fact that my only exposure of him was through his Twitter activity, and I wasn't sure what I was going to expect going into the episode given his relationship with Colin. I even contemplated skipping the episode entirely, but much to my surprise, I enjoyed a lot of what he had to say and thought he brought a good amount of insight to the discussions. I'm sure there's probably some awkwardness on your end, and Jeff could have easily said fuck it and pulled out of the show entirely, but I'm glad he didn't, and props to him for that. Shout out to Cog as well for his piece at the very end of the episode regarding what happened during the week. A lot of content creators come across as overly positive online to the point of seeming fake or forced, but with Cog, you could tell it comes from a place of genuine sincerity. Keep bringing that energy to the show, big man. It's better for it. Anyway, thanks for all the work you guys do. The whole COVID experience has been quite a roller coaster here in Australia, but LSM's content has been a consistent bright spot for me this whole time. Cheers, Adam. Thank you, Adam. All of our love. Appreciate you. I just want to talk about this because
yeah, absolutely.
Before our episode went live, there were a lot of people just saying, we're not going to stand for this. And you and I were talking behind the scenes going, all right, well, here we go. And when it went live, there were people who were very vocal in saying that they were going to skip. And we're okay with that. But what I was happy to see was a lot of people came out with a really positive impression when the episode was done. And please take it away. This is all you, really.
No, man. I mean, yeah, you set it up beautifully. My thoughts kind of exactly. Listen, we're now developing our relationship as far as defining Duke and building this show. And that was one of those ones as a mark for me mentally that I'm very proud of because, we knew coming in what was going on, right? And obviously we got so much love for Colin. Obviously, both of us had a relationship with Jeff on some level, with Grub on some level prior. So we knew obviously the events of the week, what came into it. But what was so cool was people that actually gave it a shot. And then when they gave it a shot and seen what was going on, and I just respect to both parties because at the end of the day, we got, how much we love Colin, right? So it's like for him to, again, have the open-mindedness to allow us to run Defining Duke the way we run and not have any ego and say, hey, you can't have such and such on, right? Because that easily could have happened, right? And then to Jeff, obviously with the, the exchange on Twitter and everything that happened with the past, being the bigger man coming on. And to me, it's all about gaming. The mission is always going to be gaming. And I like that we can set the example and get people across the aisle to kind of, I'm about using the platform in that way. Like everybody at the end of the day, even if we disagree, because we going to say stuff people ain't going to like, right? Right. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's always cool to be able to have those gaming conversations because that's what unifies us. So yeah, for me, I was proud. I was proud that it went the way it went. We had fun. I thought it was a really fun, informative episode. But what was your take on it?
Yeah, I agree entirely. I thought it was a really good episode. I would argue it was one of our best. I just think we had a good energy to it that wasn't forced. And Jeff, I'm not even just saying this to blow smoke up his ass. He brought a lot to the table that we otherwise would not have known on a very particular episode where we thought we had the information. He brought a new layer there. And I think Jeff knew going in that's sort of what he had to do. I think he knew to win some of the audience over, he had to go kind of information blowout. There was a lot of stories that broke out through our episode about Hellblade and Avowed and what's going on with the Game Awards. We had a lot of scoops in our episode, and I think he knew that that's how you kind of get the ear of the audience. And he was good energy the whole time. And we talked about it at the end, right? We talked about what happened with Colin. And how it is something that hopefully they bury the hatchet on, because I think one of the things that you and I want to do with this show is let it serve as a healing.
Yes.
Let it serve as a healing. We want to function as a very competitive show, and I know we are. But we also want to, not that, by the way, I'm saying this about Sacred Symbols, so I want to make that very clear.
Absolutely. Shut up.
But Last Stand isn't always trying to beef with everyone.
Right.
And we want to welcome, just like Colin does, anyone onto our show, our main show, mind you, to talk no matter how much you disagree with myself, Cog, or even the dude who hired us both to do this show. We do not care. If you are interesting to listen to and you bring something to the table, we want to have you on our show. It's just that simple.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said.
So expect more guests. And thank you to those who supported our episode, and also thank you for keeping an open mind when we brought Jeff on. Everyone knows he's good for leaks, but thank you for keeping an open mind, giving him a shot, and supporting him well. We really were happy to see that too.
Yeah, and I was really, every now and then I go through the comments on the Patreon and the LSM Patreon, and I was I was pleasantly surprised. Like people, the feedback
Hmm.
really, obviously not everyone, but the ratio was to a point where I was like, yo, that's cool.
Yeah.
Some people were really won over and they really enjoyed and respected what we attempted to do.
Yeah, and I've talked a little bit about this. This is the last I have to say on it. Is
Sure,
with
sure.
Duke Ultimate, we're scheduling a couple of interviews that aren't like controversial, I'd say, but we want to take the tough topics. I think that's one of the things that's a part of Last Stand's brand. We saw Colin interview the likes of Philip Mewson, and when
Yes.
I see that as the person who helps run this show, you look at our show, and I'm like, all right, what can we do to not compete on that level, but like
Mhm.
offer more of what people love about Last Stand. And so
Yes.
we're working on those things, and not everyone's going to love everyone we bring on. That's okay. We want the audience to always voice it because you see how much you shape our show. We just added a segment today based off your feedback. We trimmed the Game Pass pick of the week / back compat pick of the week based off your
Hmm.
feedback. So we're always listening. But we're going to keep taking those daunting tasks, if you will. And we just
Yeah,
thank you for supporting us every step of the way.
absolutely.
All right, number 2 goes to Neo JD. With PlayStation introducing game trials to their first party games, starting with Death Stranding and Sackboy, do you think Xbox will ever up the ante? I find this interesting. They already have all their first party games on Game Pass, but do you think they can maybe even try every game on the platform for an hour or so and then give you a small discount to get you to buy it on Xbox over PlayStation? Imagine Destiny 3 comes out and Xbox lets you try it for an hour and then you get possibly a percentage off of full retail for buying it on their store. Could this be possible? What do you guys think?
Shout out to Neil. It's very optimistic here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Like the trial thing is cool, obviously. I'm not gonna say if all parties are willing, don't do it. But the thing where I don't know if it meshes well with the Game Pass model because at the end of the day, Game Pass is already giving you a discount if you buy the game and it's already in the
Yep.
service, right? So that part of the monetization model, I don't know if they're willing to let you get a trial. The only thing I was thinking of in reference to this that they possibly could leverage is xCloud
Mm,
in the sense that I know they're pushing, hey, you know, if you bought it or whatever, but if you don't want to wait, you can go to the cloud right now. Because let's be real, these install sizes take a while, right?
yes.
They're really big. And the cloud can jump in and they're doing cloud from console now. So if you have it, that may be a way in, but again, I don't know if they're in the business of giving you this trial,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting to see PlayStation do that. And I want to see what your thoughts on that aspect pertaining to Xbox.
Yeah, I find this selection of games very telling for PlayStation. Death Stranding and Sackboy, I can imagine these are the two that are not doing so well. So yeah, it's probably the ideal games for trials. It reminds me of what Bethesda did. They gave hour trials to Prey when Prey was selling like shit, and they let you try it for an hour. Same thing with Wolfenstein 2. Try it for an hour, and if you like it, you buy it for a discount, but you get a good feel for the game before then. I'm always for customers having their hands on something before buying it. I know a lot of reviewers and previewers don't really talk about that much because that's sort of the bread and butter of their content, and it would hurt them if those went away. But I'm of the mindset that give the people the ability to play the game and feel it for themselves rather than just hearing about it and having people like myself document their experience. There will always be a purpose with that, but I'm always for letting the customers try the games themselves. So I would love Xbox to do this, but with all the things they have baked into Game Pass, and COD, you marvelously brought up, of course, xCloud and the streaming capabilities. While trials are really appealing, I think they would very much direct you into Game Pass and say, well, $15, you got all of these games, not just two. And if you're curious about them, provided your internet holds up, you can stream them and try it yourself, no downloads. And there is effectively a trial there. I think there's something there worth looking into, but I like how, for example, Death Stranding, I think they said it's about 6 hours. Like they give you a
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good look at the game,
right.
really strong look at the game, which I guess technically you would, well, of course you'd get with Game Pass because you're downloading the full game or you're streaming the full game.
Right.
But this is something I would be for if Xbox could swing it.
Yeah.
But I think with Game Pass, they're just going to redirect you in that way.
I just thought of something. I don't know if it's still going on. I haven't checked in a while because I haven't played a lot of EA games in a while, but
Mm.
EA used to do this, and
Yeah.
Game Pass Ultimate. They're in Game Pass Ultimate. I know for a fact the Maddens do it. I know, like, before the new Madden comes out, you get the 10-hour.
Yeah.
If you're in Game Pass Ultimate 2 days before, kind of a deal,
Correct. Yeah.
and you get to rock out. So I'm assuming, again, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who's listening, that is across the board still with a lot of their titles from a trial standpoint.
Yeah.
So I know
Go for it.
EA's does it, and I think they've continued to do it since they've now kind of been absorbed into the Game Pass Ultimate tier
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, they that's something that they live by. But it will be interesting, like you said, to see if any other, companies or first party Microsoft would ever consider doing that.
Absolutely. And I think they'll talk about it, but ultimately it's either you add another layer to Game Pass or you just say go here and download whatever you
Right.
want amongst our 100+ game library.
Right.
Number 3 comes in from Professor Chaos. Hey, Dukes, this is my first write-in as a new subscriber. Welcome, Professor Chaos. Thank you so much. I have noticed a trend in the reviews of Far Cry 6. Almost everyone is saying things like more of the same, and even going as far as giving the title low scores because it is too much like the previous titles. My question is more in regards to trends in these types of reviews, and not just Far Cry 6 specifically. I see what I think may be a bit of a double standard when it comes to excitement for these types of titles. On one hand, I hear things like same old rehashed game sold to us again. But then the same people are excited and overhyped when they hear of a remaster of a game they've already played, such as Mass Effect or Alan Wake. We complain when studios give us more of the same and then ask for more of the same. For Ubisoft in particular, just today I see people complaining Far Cry 6 is the same thing they've done all over and then complaining about the direction that they're taking Ghost Recon franchise in. Can they not just make a Splinter Cell?
How would that?
I'm curious about your thoughts on this. I apologize for the long question and do hope you have an itch in the middle of your back type of day.
Ooh. Damn, not the itch in the middle of the back.
Yeah, I never had that problem. My arms get back, so I've never had that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you like plastic, man. This man just
Yeah, I can get back.
You got arms like mine, bro. That ain't happening.
No, I was going to say, this is the perk of not being built yet, right? I'm going to the gym, but right now I got to enjoy my ability to reach behind before my biceps block me.
I'm dead.
What do you think about this? We definitely love our Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I haven't played Alan Wake, but what do you think about the conversation of Far Cry 6 and it being rehashed versus how people receive remasters?
I think there's a distinction. I think there's a separate distinction. I see where Professor Chaos is going, but I think the distinction is the sequel versus a title you have not seen in a while, and then there is a remaster or remake or what have you. And I think there is a difference. I think the nostalgia for a classic game is always going to supersede, a sequel, in the sense that the sequel is going to be rated tougher. At the end of the day, there's stuff to measure it by, and then you're going to say, okay, what did you do to iterate or to make it better, kind of thing. So it's kind of going against itself. So people are going to be harder on it. And I think we had a question similar to this a couple of Dr. Fine and Dukes ago about that. And look, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's the constant one-upping. And a lot of people say, hey, I do like what the core element of it is. And then other people are going to say, look, it's more Far Cry or it's more whatever. It comes down to your preference, what you like. But I do feel there is a difference with bringing, KOTOR back, right?
Oh.
Right? As opposed to Jedi Fallen Order 2 comes out. And then we go, they're kind of doing the same. It is. I kind of get that. So that's my thought. What do you think on it?
Yeah, I think you put it exactly how I was looking at it. Is just the expectation is with another entry in a series that there should be new content. It should hold the DNA, but it's about evolution, right? It's about taking those things the next step forward while maintaining that same feel. In the case of Far Cry, it's okay, this is a wacky open world. How do we stay wacky open world while doing new things for our players? And instead they went back to, as I mentioned, their checklists, their revolving door of characters. It's rolled out the same way as Far Cry 5. They make the same mistakes. They have the same successes. Whereas something like a remaster is, I think, number one, it's exciting for a lot of people, truthfully, because you're getting a good game. There's no question marks on how certain things will play out. Mass Effect was a told trilogy. It's going to be good. So it's an easy sell, and it's a chance for people who missed out the first time, which many did, to get in on it. Whereas, again, with Far Cry 6 or any new entry in any series, the expectations are much higher because it's a full new game, which I know you're aware of, Professor Chaos, and I understand the double standard that you're pointing out, where when Ubisoft does something different, that people are complaining, but you don't do something different for the sake of just being different. You have to make sense of it. So, for example, making a battle royale Tom Clancy game, that's not what people are asking for. That's being out of touch. So you're doing something different, but it's not the different people are looking for. And in the case of the entire industry, it's honestly very familiar. And it's why you can't compartmentalize every company, or I'm sorry, just the entire games industry. Like, the treatment of Ubisoft is very specific because they make very copy paste games. And I loved Valhalla because I feel like Assassin's Creed got shaken up starting with Origins and really moving into Odyssey, where it was very different from what we got for a decade pretty much.
Right.
Where I loved Watch Dogs Legion I enjoyed Watch Dogs Legion because it introduced a new system where you could play as everybody.
Right.
That's why those games are celebrated, but you're seeing Far Cry struggle so immensely, I think, with critics, is because they just refuse to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, and even in that respect, it's a risky. It's not easy with it being developed because it's still risky, because if you go too far left, right, add too many new things, and people are like, well, this is not a such and such Far Cry type game, right? So it's a balance where it's like you said it best, where it has to be maybe new, innovative, but fits the core elements. It ties in the core elements of why you love it, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not an easy thing, but I do feel that, if it's some of the same thing over and over, and you're just kind of like resting on your laurels because you know these aspects of the gameplay people liked prior, and you're just giving them again, then it's not most likely going to resonate very highly in Metacritic or whatever with the reviewers. So it's a tough balance.
I just realized I also didn't complete my thought a second ago. So I apologize to the listeners, because I was like, I like half finished it, then passed it to you. I was like, all right, let me complete what I was thinking. Ubisoft's also just really known for, as I point out in my Far Cry review, they take the ideas of others. And so this is another example of them doing that. It's why you're seeing blowback for them in particular, where something like God of War came under fire. I put fire in quotes, when you saw the same boat animations and stuff, and Ragnarok, and there was very familiar combat. There's a reason why Ubisoft comes under fire, because they have a really bad track record of constantly just taking others' ideas and not thinking of how to improve them, but just putting them in their games and saying, hey, that's cool, let's do that. And for those who are wondering why, it's because with game design, it's very easy to pitch to another developer a one-to-one example and be like, this is what we want to do. Instead of trying to create your own thing and explain it, put it on paper, step by step, here's how systems interact. There's so much more that goes on with that, where it's very easy to say do that. I know it sounds obvious, but there's a level of, I'm experiencing it personally, of design that goes into systems that are new, that haven't been done, where you go, okay, this is actually way more difficult to pitch. So I get why they do it, but they have obviously a multi-million-dollar budget, where I think they should be trying to do some new things like Mario and Rabbids. But yeah, like I said, like Sony Santa Monica is not going to come under fire for that, because they don't have this long-standing history of not iterating on their ideas.
Absolutely.
All right, number 4 goes to Nicholas Brilhot. Greetings, Dukes and Lords. I write in this week in response to your discussion of Xbox developing family-friendly titles using its internal talent. Banjo-Kazooie means the world to me. I've got the duo inked on my leg. Wow.
All right.
That being said, there's a problem with your idea, and that's that Microsoft has a team capable of doing it right. Sure, they could remaster it, but Banjo has a special blend of British humor that Double Fine couldn't do justice. And the talent that made it possible at Rare has mostly gone forward and formed Playtonic Games. Could you see Microsoft reacquiring the talent of Playtonic to bring back a golden age of 3D platformers, or at the very least leveraging them like they are doing with Avalanche and IO Interactive?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point as far as what Nicholas is saying with the spirit of banjo. I understand where he's going with that, and you
Hmm.
definitely. It almost reminds me of Fable in the sense that there's certain British humor and you
Yeah.
know idiosyncrasies with it that if it's not there, it kind of wouldn't be a Fable game. So
Hmm.
I understand his point. I understand the point with the studio defunct doesn't exist. I understand Rare is, and I understand his point. He's actually making valid points as far as team resources on the Xbox Game Studio side, right?
Right.
Everyone most likely is working on something, and who would actually do it. So yeah, if you the key to me, I always feel, is getting people who want to do the project, right? And the availability to do said project. So yeah, if there was a way to get what is it, Playtronic, people, absolutely, you go do that, But at the same time, how realistic is that, right? And that, I think that is maybe one of the reasons why we're not seeing it, is because it's the difficulty to get the right team and the available team to do it. And I think also in my mind, when I think of this, I think of maybe why Killer Instinct we haven't seen that either, because it's like that team's broken up or whatever, and getting formulating an existing studio that's going to have the sensibilities to create the vision, and
Hmm.
that's the struggle with game dev. You just don't want to just throw it to anybody. It comes out, it flops because the spirit of the game isn't there, and it's valid. What do you think with Banjo, and where's your tattoo at?
Yeah, right. I need to get one eventually, but soon. Uh, I understand where Nick is coming from too. I don't
Mhm.
disagree with anything he said. I think this would be ideal if Xbox went this route. It just makes the most sense. It's the best unison of talent who's familiar with it, with the IP, and just something that you could see Xbox going for. But I think that Xbox's goal is to get their internal studios to work with their IP and having a lot more crossovers internally rather than going outside for license deal with IP that they currently own.
Right.
So I look at something like Banjo, and when you have Psychonauts 2, which is a proven, strong, thoughtful 3D platformer, obviously Double Fine should do what Double Fine wants. But if I'm Phil and team, I pitch to them like, hey, people want Banjo. We need something more recognizably family friendly. Psychonauts isn't that. Let's do Banjo again and put them
Right.
on it because they can make a good game. And not that Playtomic can't, but we've seen
Right.
how good of a game Double Fine can make, how
Oh, for
sincere of a
sure.
game.
For sure.
And I have faith in their humor. I understand
Mhm.
the blend of British humor that could be an omission if they don't really finally tap into a
Right.
specific type of humor. But Psychonauts 2 was hilarious.
Oh, it's absolutely hilarious.
It was a really funny game.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just think that Double Fine makes too much sense for this. And I would, if I was Xbox, I'd go to them. Because here's the thing is, we're, I don't want to sound disrespectful when I say this, because one of the games I'm going to talk about is one I love a lot, but like
Let's get
Wasteland
it.
3, Psychonauts 2, I'm sure while Xbox is thrilled they did well, these are not for internal first party studios, Xbox brand builders, right?
Correct.
I think something like a Banjo, I think what In Exile is working on next, their big AAA FPS RPG, I think those are going to be brand builder games, right? And so you've got to find a 3D platformer that would build up Xbox, which is really tough to do. And you got to do it with your internal studio. So I think it's obvious you fork them something like Banjo or Blinks the Time Sweeper, maybe, like
Ooh,
go into that bag and give them
okay.
something kind of recognizable. Maybe not Blinks is that recognizable, but I like Blinks. What can I say?
Shout out to Blinks. Yeah, we got to see. I mean, the question for me always just comes down to, because we hear the story about they have their ability to create what they want.
Hmm.
But I do feel internally there must be some things that Xbox as a whole says, hey, these are some cool IPs that we have on the back burner. Like, what if in the team meeting, they got all the studios, hey, if anybody wants to do this Banjo or this,
Hmm.
this is available for it. Like, I'm curious to see how that structure
I always wondered that.
works.
Yeah, like how do you
Yeah,
pitch that? Does someone just have an idea and they go, "Hey, let's pick up the phone," or
right.
like does say Tim Schafer go to Phil and say, "Hey, we want to make Banjo game." I think
Hmm.
typically it's a pitching process, but
Yes.
I do wonder how that all comes together.
I agree, especially now with all of them under the roof, especially Bethesda. I would love to know how it would work to pitch a collaborative project as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And your beloved Fallout
Mm-hmm.
makers are in there. You got NXL, you got Obsidian, you got all these people. And I'm very curious to see how the pot work. I would love to be, a kind of fly.
They're in my eyes, I just think Xbox is trying to play a little bit of chess here. I think just some of the matchups in philosophy is not coincidental. You look at 343 and id, you look at Bethesda and Obsidian and Exile being announced at the same time. I just don't think moments like those just happen.
I agree.
They're thought out. These deals take a while to come into place, and there's a long roadmap. They're not just buying these studios where everyone's thinking like next 2-3 years, but like this long roadmaps, those crossovers, I feel confident will happen, and I think that's what they're looking for.
And I got to push back on one thing Cobra Commander said about studio. Shout out to Sacred Symbols. Shout out my homie Colin and Dustin and all. I know there's a lot of talk about organic development, but I will say I got to defend Xbox on this aspect. And as far as the Bethesda acquisition, that was organic. That was
they've had
yeah, bro. I remember having the OG Xbox with Morrowind, and I know we're gonna probably get into stuff. It's just a topic like that, but it's just like at the end of the day, the 360 and we're gonna get into this. Some great questions, but basically my point is, not everything is just the corporate takeover and we just bought you and you go assimilate in. There are situations where, it was a developing thing for years. They worked with Microsoft for years. So we'll get into it. I know we got it.
That's why I'm on the mindset I don't think Sega would be that big of a deal, but I also understand why people would be upset with it. I don't want any of this because I understand taking games off the market sucks, but Sega, they were there for a launch game on the original Xbox, for God's sakes. And
exactly. Peter Moore was the head of Microsoft at one point, who was also the head of Sega and Dreamcast. And one of his statements when he came to Xbox was like, yo, I hate PlayStation. They killed my Sega. He actually said that. Like, he was like,
I didn't know that.
Part of his drive for the 360 era was like, yo, we have to be out first. We got to dominate. We're going to get these exclusive. Like, he was very aggressive. I got so much love for Peter Moore. Like, Peter Moore is actually, I'm actually a Peter Moore guy. Shout out to Phil. Phil's to the homie. He's the legend, Phil Dominus Maximus. We all give him all the titles that we do on IOP.
Of course.
But I'm just saying, I come from the Peter Moore school. He, to me, really made Xbox a brand. He made 360 something special. And it was those Sega ties and those relationships that he had.
It's funny because then he went to like, what was it, EA?
Yeah,
he such a bad rep.
but he did. If you remember the history, EA didn't play nice with Microsoft for a long time. If you remember the sports titles, they wouldn't come over like that. EA was huge back then. They would not play, and I believe it was the integration of the Xbox Live. They didn't want to do it. He helped kind of broker that behind the scenes, and now your boy is like owner of the football team, the Liverpool. Oh my God, man, I'm like, he would be a dream interview. I'm not gonna lie, like, there's people on my bucket list. Peter,
we'll get him.
We got you, bro. I love me some Peter Moore, man.
We'll get him. I think that's a very possible one,
no doubt.
Josh Rockstark is our last question. We'll get into the news afterwards. What's good, Dukes? One of the major Japanese retailers, Geo, has decided to stop selling the Xbox consoles in stores because of Game Pass. Do you guys think this is a blow that stifles Xbox's success in the Japanese market, or is xCloud strong enough to make up for this? I personally think it hurts Xbox just when things were starting to fire up in the Japanese market. Thanks for all you do. Now, what was my surprise, Cog, was when I was trying to dig this up, I was really having a tough time finding the article.
Right.
And the only one that I could find was of this obscure, unheard of site like Arrowged.com talking about it. And the headline would read, due to Game Pass, yet the article states the fault apparently would be Game Pass, which is assumed. And this comes from a heavily translated article by, I believe I'll get the exact name of the outlet in a sec. Morning Sun, though, is a Japanese outlet. And so I think this is a case of pretty misleading news. Right. Rising Sun is what it's called. Yeah, Geo's drastic decision may have been encouraged by Xbox's poor success in the Rising Sun. Sorry.
Okay.
But I just found this to be something that we should just quickly talk about because it's a bit misleading in
Yeah.
why they're doing it.
Yeah, it's always about the sourcing, right? It's always about the sourcing, the reporting, and I love you did the due diligence there to kind of try to vet it and see what's up. And to me, I'm always a person, I try to get multiple sources on stuff before I run with it. And even if you don't have, in specific cases where you don't have the multiple sources, there's one outlet, you know, I always try to, as much as I can, be clear, hey, alleged, rumored, this is, kind of thing. I did find this quite hilarious. I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, Game Pass is the reason that you're not, having a retail in the region. Okay, until I see more of it, until I hear, like, for example, if Bloomberg and a couple other sites that were more involved in gaming and reporters that I kind of have relationships with or kind of have that reputation, then if they corroborate that, then I'm like, okay. But for right now, I'm kind of like, all right, we'll see until
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not there with it. But what about you? I mean, shout out to you for doing the due diligence.
Yeah, it's the thing I really have tried to figure out is why it is not, if
Mhm.
it were to have been true, why it
Right,
wouldn't have been covered at all. But
right,
the most I can gather is that like they're currently not carrying it, but like no sites re-reporting it. It's hard to
right.
even find the original source saying
Mm,
this, but there were people who were talking about it for a little bit of time, and I just
right,
wanted
right.
to write the record on that.
Yeah.
Um, it seems that the consoles are no longer being sold in their stores, but there is no distinctive reason as to why.
Right,
So this could go down to just supply chains,
right,
to even yes, Game Pass.
right.
But I think some surprisingly responsible journalism across the industry is occurring.
Like I said, until I
Mhm.
hear from some select people with that reputation and multiple accounts from other retailers doing this, I can't really run
Mhm.
crazy with this just yet.
Mhm. Let's get into the news, Cog.
Let's get it.
Number one. Xbox made their presence felt at the Tokyo Game Show this past week. Announced there were long overdue additions to the Game Pass library in the name of Scarlet Nexus, which just released this June, and the Somnium files. The team at Xbox also confirmed cloud gaming is available in Australia, Brazil, Japan, and Mexico, allowing for streaming on tablets, phones, and PCs. Lastly, Starfield and Redfall were confirmed to receive localizations for the worldwide audience. At the same time, Todd Howard had confirmed that Starfield boasts a script of over 150,000 lines of dialogue, which is 40,000 more than Fallout 4.
And you had a lot to say about that.
I did. I did.
Because I watched your video.
Yes.
And yeah. It was funny because you were like, yo, about dialogue, man. I don't know.
Mhm.
They talking. I don't know if I want my dude talking. This is what this
Mm-mm.
could be. I listen to the Matty play.
Yeah.
I listen to him. Look, first of all, I just like the fact that we did get some, Starfield news. I think the most underrated thing here is localization. I think that is a huge deal. Huge deal. Shout out to some of my writers at lordsofgaming.net. We've got some brothers from Croatia that write for us, and they tell us, they're like, yo, localization, it's a big deal. A lot of different regions. And I think for me, why it's so important with Japan is that if you are to be taken seriously, you need to have the language and the feel of the culture. If you don't respect the culture, how can you really intend to make an indent? And my thing is, I know that's a lot of resources. I'm not trying to just kind of like rag on Xbox. Like, it's not easy. That's a big deal. But to
Right.
put in that work is a good sign. And I shout out to that. And then as far as the Game Pass announcements, Scarlet Nexus is huge.
Mhm.
I really think that's a good look. Maybe I would have liked a day and date, but hey, like we had Grum on, it could have been a situation that a lot of these companies are saying, hey, we may not, if we don't do good out the gate, we got
Mhm.
that Game Pass on the
Mhm.
back end, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's one of those, I always butcher the name. How you pronounce it? I-O? I
I.
always,
I.
there we go. I think that's a huge deal as well. You want those type of titles on your platform. It resonates with the region. And the last thing that wasn't mentioned here, well, actually two things. Cloud gaming, huge. It launched also during TGS.
Mhm.
Huge deal. But the one I really want to focus on is and I mentioned it was Sarah Bond again. She's out here killing it with the ID at Xbox with Japanese game developers, over 200.
Yes.
See, to me, that's the key, because you want that fresh up and coming talent in the indie scene that's from the region on your platform. And if that grows and they become the next Kojima or whoever, right? You birthed that on your platform. You gave the next generation of developers a shot. And I love what they're doing there. So slow, steady. Look, did we get the big Persona 5? Did we get all the monsters? Did Sega happen? No. But I still like these moves for long-term commitment. But what do you think about this stuff?
Yeah, it's certainly all good news across the board. I don't think there's anything here that is bad or concerning. I talked about this a little bit on how I think the time is coming for Xbox in the next year to stop the half measures. These are great. These are great. I like getting Scarlet Nexus there, but my example of going in would be get Scarlet Nexus day one next time. Pay a little bit more. The Somnium Files, it shouldn't be celebrated. It's coming to the platform 2 years later, or however long it's been. I think about 2 years. It should be there day one. And we were just talking about ActRaiser. Like, that should be there day one. So I've been starting to feel a little bit more like Xbox's support in Japan is a bit performative because they know their fans want it.
Right.
But it's not a good business sense to go all in right now in their eyes, which I understand and I respect. But I think there's a large Western audience that wants to play these Japanese games, and they would love to support them on Xbox. And there's a reason why PlayStation and Nintendo are always guarantees beyond them just being Japanese companies. There's a reason why those games are always there day and date, and it's because their fans support those games, because those games they can count on always being there. Xbox fans will end up going to those platforms to play these games because they know they'll always be there. There's always a question mark. Their first step, in my eyes, start removing the question marks. So it's good that the Somnium Files is on Game Pass, because the sequel will be on Xbox day one. I want them to continue to do that. But I wasn't disappointed by any of these news. They set the expectations, I thought, perfectly for this one. In fact, I was a little bit surprised and excited by some of this. But I just wanted to speak, again, our motto, Cog, right? Not what you want to hear, what you need to hear.
What you need to
hear.
Right,
that's what I was thinking. It's like, yes, this is very exciting. I don't want to be a party pooper here.
Right.
I'll praise the good name of the Somnium Files in just a moment. But I just want to make it clear that when I saw it, I was like, all right, we need more. Like, it's clear this isn't going to be enough to an Xbox or potential Xbox player looking at their platform going, all right, like, I can get my JRPGs here. This doesn't tell me that. It's still in the middle.
I hear where you're going. And it's funny. You're literally speaking. We talked about an ILP addict. You're literally voicing one of his frustrations, like verbatim.
Wow.
He's like, it's not enough. He was like, I'm tired of, Final Fantasy not there on launch and this, on like all these different games. And he mentioned it. I wanted to ask you this question though. What about, because there was a segment with Phil and Mikami, I believe, because remember they wanted to promote the Tango thing. And I want to get your feedback of what about the idea of possibly another kind of like homegrown Japanese new studio developed. So this way you kind of control that, because the only, it's not even pushback, because you got valid arguments. They still could do better. Like this, I'm not even going to push back, because they really can't. The thing comes down to, I think Grub last week opened my eyes and enlightened me to the struggle they may be having with not being from the region, right? Then coupled with the fact that there may be a limit to how far they want to financially go if they have some type of analytics and metrics to say, hey, this is the engagement on them titles, they're really playing them, or whatever they may have internally. Like, so do you think like having their own internal, like their own studio outside of Tango, because Tango they got by proxy, but I want like a brand new team. Do you think that could help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if they had we were talking last week about how the initiative is set up. I think if they had something like that in Japan, that'd be really exciting. This sort of crossover studio, especially Japan loves crossovers, man. Like that's what their products are all about. Like you saw Persona and Sword Art Online, like just this wild shit. So I think if you could set up an initiative like studio that just pitches ideas and generates prototypes, and then you've got companies that do effectively the heavy lifting afterwards, I think it's a recipe for success. And I think that wouldn't be as scary as an investment for Xbox as like buying outright a game, right? I think that there's something there that you could see immediately, like this will have long-term benefits for us. So I'm for that. I've always been for that more than anything.
Yeah.
I've always said I don't think Xbox should just go in and buy out Japan.
Right.
They've got to build up to it. And I think the first step is getting the games day one. I think step two would be announcing almost your commitment by saying not just the ID at Xbox devs. That's great, by the way, but like setting up a studio there, being like, this is one of our homes now. And then buying someone there, because now you got Tango. Let's say they get someone, let's say they get Atlas or they buy out Sega, whatever. Now, just like we have here in the West where everyone's cross collaborating, you don't have this isolated Japanese studio. They got their own home team that they can work with. And I think that's how you build it up. So one thing I didn't consider, though, that when they talked about the localization is this is really good for their global growth, too. They tend to kind of ignore this type of stuff. And especially, I know Jez Corden had covered this a lot on Windows Central Gaming about their Windows Store and just how things function for global customers. It's a very westernized console, which works for us. But now seeing that they're going in on localizations, they're trying to improve that experience for people across the globe, I think is really an underrated decision that's being made.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree, man. And then, like you said, they could still always do more, always improve, and go bigger as well.
Yeah, and I think that the streaming is going to be big because handhelds are huge in Japan specifically. So being able to play those games on the go, I think that'll go a long way with them over time.
Absolutely.
What do you think about 150,000 lines of dialogue, by the way? You got the same feeling I do? Where are you at with that?
I'm wait and see. I'm in my wait and see because I understand the sentiment. You know, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of dialogue, bro. That's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so hyped for Starfield. So it's like, for me, it's just like, I just can't wait. I think it's extremely critical, extremely important. But to your point, to your direct question, I'm not flipping out just yet. But I know Matty does not like the prospects of this. He's very concerned, y'all. He's like, I don't want this guy, because this was Fallout 4, right? You don't want that Fallout 4 too much talking from the guy. You don't want that. You know, so I understand it. I understand the sentiment. I don't know what direction they're going here in reference to that. Is it just that, the game is that expansive that it's, so we gonna see. But Starfield, I'm still hyped, man.
Exactly that. Exactly that. It's, if it is, for those who don't know, my concern is this will be another voice protagonist. And the reason I'm against it with Bethesda Game Studios is they said they tried it with Fallout 4, and they even, Todd Howard said afterwards that they were like, we're glad we tried it, but it didn't seem to have worked out that well. There's a GameSpot interview if anyone wants to check it out. That's me loosely quoting him. But what we saw with Fallout 4 was a game that's role-playing almost disappeared because the protagonist's voice, they couldn't account for all the choices, because for everything you did, the character had to react to it. Versus in even Fallout 3, which, by the way, is very like linear. It was good or bad with all your choices, but it was still choice.
Right.
And because the world was only responding to you, this is very important because it, number one, allows you to put yourself in your character's shoes a little bit easier, but there's less to account for. There's less resources going into that. And it's, of course, getting the Fallout 4 showed this, getting the emotional tone right for certain choices. It's just, you strip all that out. And so if we see, Cog, 150,000 lines of dialogue, which, by the way, Cyberpunk had just about over 100,000. We see 150,000 lines of dialogue, no voice protagonist. I am going to be actually excited.
Yeah.
Because then to me, that's like, okay, they took it personally. They were like, because they said this is more of a hardcore RPG. Not that you can't make a hardcore RPG if your character is voiced, but with the way Bethesda does that openness, the way they've tinkered with choice and consequence in the past, I don't think they can do what Witcher 3 did, which is have those meaningful choices while being an open world RPG. Because even The Witcher 3 kind of like puts you down a path. Where Bethesda games are very open. So if they're going to take this in that open route, I feel like the character has got to be voiceless. And since it's a new IP, I think there's a lot of world building they got to do. So there's going to be of course, more lines of dialogue in general because they have to explain and reiterate things to players. But if there is no voice protagonist and this line of dialogue count is accurate, holy smokes, that is great news.
I think you're gonna be good. The fact that you said that Todd already recognized that was something that they would not want to do again after Fallout 4 would make me lean that that this is probably not going to be the case.
I got trust issues,
I know, because you've been burned.
Yeah. Yep.
I know where you're at. You like, and what it is this is your baby. So you're like how I get. You're very meticulous with the minutia and the detail. Like, what you mean this 150,000? What you doing?
Yep.
What's going on? This is Fallout 4 vibes. What you do? I know where you at. I know. I think you're gonna be all right, man. I think they're gonna deliver for you.
All right, let's hope.
Let's hope.
Because he didn't talk in the trailer, right? That's the thing.
Yes,
they had that Let's Go Pal in the reveal trailer, but he didn't talk. He just looked up in the trailer, the main character. I was like, okay. Like once it ended, there wasn't a word uttered by him. I was like, yes, good.
I can picture the thumbnail of the next Matty video if there is voice with a fan.
Yeah, that face I made for my Halo Infinite video where I just got that smirk like that. Really, man?
It'll be funny if it is, though. I ain't gonna lie. Not that I'm wishing that. It would be funny to see what your reaction will be.
Because I know it's one of those videos you got to make where you're okay, all right, at least half the people watching this are going to think I'm overreacting before we actually get to the product. I know. But you're like, I got to talk about this anyway. It means too much to me.
I just love your passion for it because this is a point. Like, this is a sticking point, and I love it that you're so passionate about it. It's gonna be funny. I can't wait.
Until then, we go on to number 2. China will ban video games featuring same-sex relationships, effeminate men, and moral choices, according to a leaked memo revealed by South China Morning Post. This memo states that video games should not be viewed as pure entertainment and that, quote, if regulators can't tell the character's gender immediately, the settings of the character could be considered problematic and red flags will be raised, end quote. It was just in August that we saw China regulate the time that can be spent playing games, limiting it to 3 hours per week for any 18 or under. This hasn't been getting a lot of media coverage, and I thought it was really disappointing. Colin brought it to my attention, and I was like, of course, we want to throw this into our show, talk about it a little bit here. So what do you make of the leaked memo here from China?
Yeah, not a good look. Not a good look. At the end of the day, I hate to get into this. Feels like we're getting into the Chinese game development bashing, but bro, I don't like it. And here's the thing: if you take a bag from a 10 cent or whatever, be cognizant of what comes with it with your game. Be cognizant, because these are the things we're talking about. These are the tendrils that get in and involve, and you've got to be comfortable with that. With me, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, if I'm a game dev and I want to appeal to the market, and I have any type of same-sex relationship in the game or any the fact that it's perceived effeminate, like how do you look, at the end of the day, make the game that you want to make. And I'm never going to be in favor of any type of censorship on the game, because my whole thing is, if it affects you as a consumer that much, don't buy it, don't support. But now when a government is telling you what you can and what you can't do in terms of entertainment, that ain't it for me, bro. So I'm always going to be in the side of development and creativity and the artistry, and that's just, I'm always going to stand on that. But what about you when you heard this stuff?
I thought it was just really disappointing. I thought limiting the playtime was already ridiculous, but it just seems like a complete Stone Age move to limit games, ban them that feature something like same-sex relationships. I would lose my goddamn mind. That means no RPGs or any of that stuff, right? Because they all feature moral choices. They feature the same-sex relationships. So I would lose it on that alone. But just this desire to control things that don't matter. I don't understand it. Regulating things that are creative expressions.
Right.
Worrying about men looking like women looking like men, and so on and so forth. I just don't understand why people are so concerned with how others live and enjoy their lives and how they perceive things.
Thank you.
I know that's not such a very profound thinking point or talking point,
Right.
sorry. But at times I'm just baffled, and it's hard to find the words because you look at something like this and go, okay, it's a little unsurprising that they would limit the amount of time that someone could play a week, but to now limit the games that could be enjoyed, which starts to create a very narrow point of view and an expectation societally. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a macho man. I wouldn't. You know, I don't think I look that way. I don't think I'm appearing that way. I wouldn't say I appear feminine, but certainly I don't think I categorize underneath, you know, a typical dude. And it's like, I'm comfortable with that. I don't mind that at all. But it seems like they're trying to control almost a worldview that's not healthy. And it goes beyond gaming after that.
It's just, to me, it's just a way too you're controlling the mindset of the populace. And to me, you know, do you want, you know, I know I couldn't live in an environment like that. You know, I'm a very opinionated person. I speak my mind, and, you know, it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that, you know, there's situations that exist like that in the world. And when you see that permeate into video games and entertainment, that means another level of control, another level of, we're telling you how to think, how to act, what you should do, what you can't do. You know, that's just not an environment for me. So I'll just leave it at that.
I agree. And I think the only thing that is problematic and a red flag is this memo here. So hopefully it's not something that ends up actually happening, but I would not be surprised if it does. And I just, on a separate note, wish there was more coverage of this. We talked about how, like, Fanbyte's owned by I forgot who it was in China, but, like, they're not going to cover it because it would impact their position. It's exactly. You mentioned tendrils. It's this scary amount of tendrils where you're starting to see the press just ignore this stuff. I got this from Yahoo, by the way. Yahoo News is who covered this and brought this to our attention. That should not be happening. This should be on the front page of IGN. I'm not usually one to say, like, here's what the news cycle has to be. I'm not about that life, by the way. But I think when we start to see an actual censorship of the medium we all care about, that demands conversation. And I would have appreciated this being plastered a little bit more than it actually was.
And the scary reality is, and shout out to Colin, he's really been on fire. I love when sacred symbols go there, is that, you know, the scary reality is when the tendrils also permeate into the media aspect of gaming, because that gets scary, you know, and then you can control messaging and what gets purported and not, and you just got to be careful. It goes down the scary, you know, the slippery slope. You got to be careful. But I agree, this should definitely get more light to it.
Yeah, like, I'm searching right now, China video games IGN, and not to just light up one particular outlet here. Nothing on both stories, by the way. And at least on a quick Google search here on the news section of under Google, I typed in China video games IGN. I scrolled through, let's see here, 2 pages. Nothing, man. And it's like, that's disappointing.
Yes.
That's disappointing. It's very telling.
Yeah. So especially, you know, the subject matter. This is really important stuff. Completely agree. Especially for the culture that everyone claims to love and, you know, a part of. So why is it not mentioned?
I agree. So we're trying to do our part here. Feel free to spread the articles and all that stuff. But let's move on to number 3 now. This one's going to be a good one. I'm going to have a fucking blast with this. I don't know how I didn't get a write-in about this, because you know why? It fuels a point I've been trying to make alongside you for a very long time.
I like Matty, I told you so much.
Epic has revealed their own achievement system for those who use the Epic Game Store. Every game will have a total of 1,000 XP, and each achievement earns a particular amount of XP. Those XP amounts are determined by the type of achievement earned, which will look familiar to PlayStation fans. So you got your bronze, which goes from 5 to 45 XP. You got your silver, which goes from 50 to 95 XP. You got your gold at 100 to 200 XP. And then you got your motherfucking platinum.
Talk that talk, Matty.
You got your fucking platinum. Earning 1,000 XP will earn you the platinum achievement, thus granting that extra 250 XP. What's up?
I love that you got it capitalized in the notes. I think that's the funniest shit. Continue.
The XP goes to another familiar part of the PlayStation trophy system as the account will level up. There's currently no word on other offers or perks that the players will earn beyond this experience. The starting games supporting these achievements are Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, Hades, Alan Wake Remastered, Rocket League, Pillars of Eternity, Zombie Army 4, and some more. Epic says it's, quote, working to get these tools to more developers, so you can expect to see epic achievements popping in your favorite games later this year, end quote.
I was going to let you go because clearly I remember this being a subject matter, questions coming in, questioning Matty about this. So, Matty, the floor is yours. You get to set this off first.
Thank
you. Please.
All right. So, I've been attacked consistently. I've been continuously bombarded with feedback on how Xbox doesn't need the platinum. Xbox's achievements, last week, they all matter. You don't need the platinum, and you got Epic fucking doing a platinum. And you can't tell me that Xbox can't evolve and add that one crown at the top of completing all of them. You're telling me still they can't do that. They can. And it works. It gets people to achievement hunt. They need to evolve the system. And I'm so happy to see another storefront doing this. All right. And by the way, L to Nintendo, because they still don't have an achievement or trophy system. Like what?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's literally it. I mean, I was thinking about this and I was like, it's funny how a company now looks at, what's the thing we want to bring in? Whose version of doing this are we going to mimic? Right? And which one they chose was the PlayStation, right? That to them seemed like the best way. They got the points, the platinum, and I like the extra 250 experience. I love it. So this is great. We're seeing people move in that direction. It is a copycat league on some levels, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if it is not broke, don't fix, what's the, if it, the expression, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, this is something Microsoft needs to do. We've said it ad nauseum. And I will be, I can't confirm, but I'm in a lot of these insider, stuff, research data. They come to Cog for feedback, right? And Cog put this high on the list. And they were like, be as harsh as you can if you want. And I was like, okay, because I'm going to go in. Yeah, sure. And I was always a little concerned I was too harsh. And when I sent the feedback, I was like, I didn't get a response. I'm like, oh no, I was too hard. But they were like, no. This is why we asked you. We know you're going to give us an honest thing. And I told him, I said, yeah, you guys have been lapped. You've been lapped. You've been lapped in the space you created, right? You were the originator, but this is what people want to see. And I just gave them the list. So from my understanding, it's on the docket. It's going to most likely happen at some point, but there's a prioritization of things they want to do as a team.
Understood.
Yeah, well, hopefully we get it because, it needs to. This is a clear-cut example. I just like you beating your chest with it because it was just so funny. The validation comes literally the next week from
it was
Epic.
Great. When I saw that, I was like, this is going at the top for me and me only.
Smoke.
And here's the thing, right? I'm going to pitch this to Xbox fans because I know we love our value here.
Yes.
What if they added a platinum achievement or whatever they want to call it, the crown jewel? I don't care. And when you got it, they gave you like 5,000 Microsoft reward points.
Ooh.
So you get that 100%. That equals $5, by the way. So I know that sounds a little ridiculous to some. But when you're logging in, you're getting those Game Pass rewards. You're getting those monthly, weekly rewards. Like, I think rewards are the next step for Xbox because you literally earn shit to play your games. Tie the achievements into that, and it will become so addicting because you're literally playing and earning money. It keeps you so engaged. If they just tied those two together, I'm telling you, why fight back on this? This is all what Xbox is about, value. Let them evolve this achievement system. Let them add something at the top so you get a big reward once you see all of their game through. Because guess what? That brings you into Game Pass, man. It's like, wait, I get to pay for my membership by playing games within the membership? Hello? People are already doing that. Tie the achievements in, it's game over. It's hard to beat that.
You are on fire. I didn't even think about that. Like, that is so genius because that's what they want. They scream engagement from the roof. They yell it. We've got 15,000 people sailing, whatever. We've got all these, ships killed. They love this stuff. So you're literally tying, if you tie the rewards into a platinum, which is the ultimate level of engagement with a single title, you're getting everything you want. Them playing games, staying in Game Pass, playing Game Pass games, subscribing to Game Pass, keeping their subscription. Bro, you on fire. I might steal that and put that in the notes for the next thing they ask me. That is fire. I love that.
I would love that. I think it works really well. It doesn't feel like you're breaking their system. It feels like you're evolving what already exists, and it forces PlayStation to think to themselves, well, we're only giving our customers wallpapers. It's like, well, now what are you going to do? And Xbox does this too, by the way. You mentioned achievement art. Like, well, now what are you going to do, PlayStation? And that's what you want them to do, because then PlayStation fans benefit, because then they start demanding what we're demanding, which is like, hey, evolve this. You want that. Yep. Don't let them be stagnant. It's important.
Preach it, brother. Well said.
Number 4. Speaking of PC, Capcom has made a public commitment to the platform and stated the aim is to make it their primary platform in the coming years. The reason for this is because they believe that PC will be the next big gaming space beyond smartphones. This statement comes after Capcom had announced Monster Hunter Rise is heading to PC, which, by the way, sold over 7 million copies on Switch so far. Quote, the pandemic is changing the way people look at PCs. Smartphones are convenient, but their screens are small, and their touch panels are difficult to operate, so they are not suitable for home working or school classes. I think PCs will be the next big thing after smartphones, end quote. After driving, driving reason beyond this was the legacy sales, where they surprisingly confirmed that Resident Evil 7 continues to sell around 1 million copies a year since its launch. All right, for those of you who are long-time ham radio podcast listeners, when it was just Carrick and I, before Dustin came in, before we reinvented it with Ham Radio Live, Carrick and I hammered Capcom for fucking months because we knew they were full of shit on Resident Evil 7. They said it underperformed, it didn't meet expectations, but we started digging into their sales and their player count. I was like, there's no way this game was a failure. And now seeing the initial sales numbers and the legacy sales of 1 million each year at least since 2017 when the game came out, I knew they were full of shit. I knew they were full of shit. So that little confirmation there felt really nice to see. Not to have an I told you so moment, by the way. That's
no. Get your balls off, brother.
But this was one of those moments where I was like, I knew a lot of companies just say they don't meet expectations for some unknown reason. Like, it's like they have these internal projections, and a lot of people think that means, it didn't profit.
Right.
But they have these internal expectations of, well, we wanted to sell 10 million units. And it's like, well, that wasn't realistic. So did it not meet expectations, or did the game fail? That's why it's so important that seeing Resident Evil 7 continue to sell well. It's something I really wanted to point out. But anyway, let's get back on topic. How do you feel about Capcom really honing in on PC in the coming years?
I do want to comment on that last part.
Please.
You said something good, cool, which is it also reminds, as a Destiny fan, this was one of the final straws that broke the camel's back with Bungie leaving Activision, because one of their best DLCs was Forsaken, and Activision had put out a statement in their quarterly earnings, whatever, like, we were disappointed, it underperformed expectations, to make it seem like it's a failure, right? And I never forget this. This is when I knew something was up with Bungie and they were going to leave, because Luke Smith jumped in front of a call, publicly went at Activision and said, we don't look at that Forsaken as any type of failure. We are very proud of what this did. And I was like, And then shortly, a month later, they separated from Activision and whatever. But to this point with Capcom PC, interesting. The thing that is interesting to me, though, is they saying that they want it to be the primary place. That is interesting. That is it. And, I get the bullishness with the sales on PC, and we all recognize PC is a market to be tapped into, and this is something that we're going to see a lot of companies do. I just thought the primary one was interesting, saying it over smartphones and all this stuff. I could see this over the smartphone stuff, but I'm like, okay, over consoles, interesting. Like, when you say primary, you've got high expectations. So is it a thing? Is it a situation where, to your point, you and Carrick had known they did well, you know what I'm saying? And then now maybe they're looking at that numbers and say, yo, we really have something here. Let's really go harder in the PC space. It's just very interesting. I've never seen that type of rhetoric from a company saying, yo, we want to make PC the primary platform. Like, I've never seen that. That's interesting to me. But what do you think about that particular statement?
I think that Xbox should be picking up the phone, because PC is their one of their homes, and helping Capcom embrace that new PC space and getting that relationship going. Because a lot of people, myself included, thought Capcom was trending towards PlayStation a little bit. They were really buddying up with them.
Yeah,
and
Street Fighter over there exclusive.
Yeah, right. And I think that Xbox should be in on this, helping them get all involved in PC if they need any help. This is another Japanese company that they should definitely have strong relations with to help build their brand in that region. But also because they mentioned that smartphones are convenient, the screens are too small, their touch panels are difficult to operate. I am not a smartphone gamer. I don't use xCloud in that way, if at all. I would use it on my tablet where I could at least see clearly what I'm doing. But I feel like Xbox has the chance here to be like, here, check out xCloud. Check out what it's all about and what it can do and how it can benefit your game. I think there's more there to be seen from them. But I think overall, this is great news. I love it when companies are bringing more games to more platforms. You know, we saw Monster Hunter Rise was an exclusive Switch game, sold really well there. And now it's going to head to PC. I'm hoping next time that they do a Monster Hunter game, if it's exclusive to a platform on consoles, that they always make sure it's there on PC. If that's what they mean by primary, that's what I'm hoping for. And I think that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 5, more PC news. Forza Horizon 5's PC specs were revealed at the Tokyo Game Show. And, you know, this was kind of surprising place for them to announce it in the first place, right? I don't know about you. I didn't expect that at all, but
I agree.
We're just going to run through them real quickly. I know you're a tech geek, Cog, so you'll probably have some thoughts on this more than myself. So for the minimum on the AMD side, you want to have a Ryzen 3 1200, a Radeon RX 470, 4 gigabytes of video RAM, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 110 gigabytes of hard drive space across the entire board. So we won't be mentioning that for the rest. For the minimum on NVIDIA, they're saying you should have an Intel i5 4460, an NVIDIA GTX 970 with, again, 4 gigabytes of video RAM and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, recommended, right? You want to at least be able to run this decently. Intel i5 8400 on the NVIDIA side of things with an NVIDIA GTX 1070, 8 gigabytes of video RAM, 16 gigabytes of RAM in general. AMD Ryzen 5 1500X with a Radeon RX 590. Again, 8 gigabytes of video RAM, 16 gigabytes of RAM. And then the ideal specs, which I've never seen this before, right? He's recommended an ideal. What's the difference on that? I don't know. It's very interesting.
Graphics card, I see what difference.
Yeah, this is is ideal. Like, yeah, this would be nice, but you don't need that. Like, usually it's, you know, least good, best.
The vibe, I'll tell you what you finish. I'll tell you what I think with the ideal.
So AMD side of the ideal specs is the Ryzen 7 3800 XT with a Radeon RX 6800 XT, 16 gigabytes of video RAM, and 16 gigabytes of RAM. Then on NVIDIA, Intel i7 10700K with an NVIDIA RTX 3080. 10 gigabytes, it says, of video RAM and 16 gigabytes of RAM. So those are the specs for Forza Horizon 5 on PC. Just want to share that with the audience. Cog, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, what I think ideal, again, at least this is what I gather from it, is that what you want to really showcase the quote unquote either the next generation features or the new techniques that they're utilizing to really get the full benefit of the Forza Horizon 5 experience. I think it's more that obviously the recommended is, you can run it, you can run this bad boy, you'll be fine. But if you truly want to see the engineering we put into this game from a development standpoint, I look at ideal as like the bougie gamer, like, yo, if you want to really see what I can do, you know what I'm saying? You pull up with that Matty 3080.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I saw you flexing.
Yeah. This PC will not have a problem with Forza.
Oh yeah, you are good. You are good because you was like, yo, I'm doing my Battlefield set. I mean, from my experience, that's fair.
Yeah.
I feel you. I gotta get me a 30 card. But yeah, like that's how I look at it. As a gamer, you know, I want to see it. I'm not a big PC gamer, but if I was, you know what I'm saying, I want to see this thing pushed. Like, what is it doing?
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of thing. So yeah, and then ray tracing and all those good stuff, good features and stuff like that. What about you when you see minimum recommended and ideal?
That's the thing. It's always been interesting. I've approached PC consistently like consoles. So when I do invest in my PC, you know, I have like an i9 3080 right now. I try to go top of the line because I don't want to get in there and update things and tinker with it, because I was actually watching a video on the Saboteur. Shout out to Lasers. It's James from the As Always podcast. He has a great video on the Saboteur, and he shows his experience of getting it to work with a controller, and he had to go into like the INI files and change inputs and stuff. Otherwise, the controller just scrolls up and down the menu constantly. Like, it's horribly broken. Yeah, and it's funny because it's a video called The Masterpiece You Probably Never Played, which a lot of people missed out on the Saboteur. But I'm watching it and I'm like, this is such a PC moment. Shit happens, makes no fucking sense, and it's so annoying. So my approach to it, and I don't mean to sound privileged when I say this, but I just buy what I like. I save up my money, and I buy top of the line, and I don't worry about it after that. So what I see are the numbers, and I'm like, is my number higher than yours? It is. Okay, we're good. That's all there is to it to me.
Listen, it's an investment. It's an investment. If you truly love the craft, and obviously with content creation and what you're doing, and you want to play these, you know, next gen games, you know, it's only right. Let's do it at the highest fidelity that we possibly can do it.
And not only that, this thing renders videos in, oh my God, I can't believe some of the render times I put up with my PC that pretty much broke. This thing, you know, when you throw in, like, for those who are video editors, you know what I'm talking about, like defocus always slows down your editing time or your rendering times. Anything you fast forward or slow-mo slows down render times. This thing just blitzes through everything. Everything's done in 10 minutes or less. It's incredible. Beautiful. I love it.
Love it. Yeah, as a content creator, that efficiency is so valuable.
Absolutely. Number 6, final bit of news for this week, coming to and leaving Xbox Game Pass soon. Starts off on October 5th for cloud, console, and PC with Total Accurate Battle Simulator, aka TABS. The procession to Cavalry on cloud, console, and PC October 7th. Visage comes to cloud, console, and PC on October 7th as well. Back for Blood, cloud, console, and PC. Day 1, October 12th. Sneaking up on us.
Yes.
Here we go, Cog. Destiny 2 Beyond Light, PC Game Pass, October 12th. Ring of Pain on cloud, console, and PC, October 14th. The Rift Breaker, an ID at Xbox game, coming out October 14th on cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X/S. They don't specify console here, so this might be next-gen console only. And The Good Life, cloud, console, PC on October 15th. What's leaving Game Pass on October 15th? We're losing Goner 2 on cloud, console, and PC. Heave Ho on PC. Katana Zero on cloud, console, and PC. Scourgebringer on cloud, console, and PC. Tales of Vesperia HD is leaving console and PC. And the Swords of Ditto is leaving PC. Anything here catching your eye on both the exits and entrances?
Entry, it's all about Back for Blood for me. Like, I'm ready. We talked about it. You know, I'm excited to get my hands on that and dive deep. Have that Left 4 Dead style romp. I will be doing some Destiny 2 PC testing because for me, again, I want to truly test them in the space because that will be on Game Pass PC, not the Steam version, right? So I want to know what that experience is like and if it's comparable because that's been an issue for me. And again, on that list that I talked about when they said Cog, and I said, I'm going to tell you which one here, Now, which one is what you need to hear?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them Game Pass ports haven't been it, bro. But I
Yeah.
heard other things in the background as to why, and that hopefully Windows 11 and a couple other things will shape that. But I am gonna test that port because I know that game front to back. As far as leaving Katana Zero, that was a good one. People should get on that. I remember I actually covered that at a PAX when they debuted, and yeah, shout out to what's the homie's name? Oh man, I forgot. Big mustache, huge streamer, big guy. He was like a big content creator. He's playing the game. I have him in my footage. It's hilarious. Dano Taj. Shout out to Dano Taj, the homie. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I have footage of him playing Katana Zero, and it was so much fun. So people should check that game out before it goes. And I think Heave Ho was like an interesting little weird party game. Great developers, fun group. It's a little fun party game. It's silly, kind of thing. So yeah, those two I remember. What about you? What as far as entry and exiting?
I gotta say again, Back for Blood just looks like such a good romp. Really excited for that one. So that is absolutely the only one that's calling my name on this list. I think for good reason because it's one of their biggest day one drops. I think in my eyes, it's their biggest for sure day one drop. So I'm surprised the chatter on this game hasn't ramped up so much, but I also think it's because Halo's been kind of dominating the Xbox conversation. But yeah, we got a really significant game coming out quite soon that hopes to mimic that Left 4 Dead experience, and I hope it's good. I'm really looking forward to it. As for, by the way, I remember, shout out to the time I mentioned that I was going to play it on Game Pass, and I got dragged for it. I wasn't supporting the devs.
You're not supporting the devs, bro.
I'm not.
If you don't buy the game, the devs are gonna be out in the street, and
if they're gonna get paid per download on top of the flat rate, like
on top of it. I had to explain that to a friend of mine. I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna put him out there. That's my homie, but he knows who he is if he's listening to this. And we just had this conversation. He was like, because I bought the retail version because I want to support that. And I'm like, I know you just didn't say that.
Yeah.
You could have just said,
it's that white knighting, man. I can't say it. It's like you're not a better person.
You're not doing anything. I said I would have gave the person a pass if they'd have been like, yo, I want the collector's edition.
Yeah.
Or, because I want the physical, dope. Or you like, hey, this particular game, I've played it on the PlayStation and I want the trophies because I'm historically, like how we had Colin on and we talked about smart onboarding, right? That's a reason if you're in the PlayStation ecosystem, you love it so much and it's a third-party game, you want to keep it in that ecosystem because you keep your family or your platinum trophies, you know what I'm saying, together. I understand it. But don't give me this, I want to protect, I want to support the devs, and I want to make sure because that evil game. Like, no, bro, we're not doing that. Nope. Stop it.
I agree.
Exactly. But anyway, that was my little rant. I want to get off.
No, go for it. I love it.
Yeah, that was it. Am I up to my pick?
Let's see here. Yeah, leaving Game Pass, I don't have much to say. So yeah, let's do it. Game Pass pick of the week, all you.
Yeah. All right, look, y'all. I know I'm team Lord Turn-Base. One of my favorites of all time, XCOM, the GOAT turn-based. I'm just going to say it. It's the GOAT for me. There's nothing that usually gets that experience. And I first ever was playing XCOM UFO Defense on the PlayStation. That's my first ever on PS1. And I got to shout out the legend. Is Julian Gallup. That's his man's name. He created that. Since then, subsequently, it's now transferred over to Jake Solomon. And Jake Solomon's with Firaxis and those guys, and they do a great job. They've taken the series to a different level, a different direction. But I had to take it back to the OG. I heard the OG came outside, and it's Phoenix Point. Phoenix Point Behemoth Edition, finally on console, Game Pass. Apparently, it was on PC for a little bit.
Yes.
But I didn't mess with it there. I want, I'm like you, man. I'm a controller guy. Like, I want to get it on over there. Right so on. that was my thing. And yeah, man, this thing, it's so cool. It's the essence of XCOM on some levels. You have this whole, kind of like cosmic horror threat going on. And, you got you still got your classic XCOM gameplay. You still got your strategy layer. But the thing about it, there's little nuances that he's added that I really like. And one of the cool things I like is that in most XCOM's games, you know how it is, Ratty. You see the enemy, and you see that percentage, like 80% on the thing. Okay, cool. But what's dope with Phoenix Point is there's almost an ADS left trigger mode where you can zoom in and then pinpoint actual limbs. Okay, I might shoot the alien's arm that's holding the gun. I might disable, and they tell you the consequences. They give you the percentage as well, but they tell you the consequences of the success of you hitting the leg, hitting the arm, and it's really cool. It adds an extra dynamic. Also little subtleties. Some games, turn-based, when you press reload, it takes a turn or an action point. Not Phoenix Point, right? So it's enough depth to it. Vehicles, very big. They got like a wasteland vibe there where that they play a big component into it. Also, you're getting the Behemoth Edition, which is all this DLC that they made that I didn't even know the game had and added. So for the value, now, will I say like the story is as compelling as XCOM right now? Probably not. That's probably like the weakest point of it. But if you're about that turn base, you're about that strategy layer, you're about that squad and the depth and the complexity of the game is really surpassed. Like, this is the OG. Julian's in his bag. They're supporting it long term. I was so happy to see this thing go in Game Pass.
Nice.
So Phoenix Point, I've been rocking. It's a fun experience. If you love XCOM, you are going to love. Like, I get how I get with these games. It's an addiction, and I can't stop because I gotta get through.
You?
Yeah, nice. I'm in. The prologue is like the tutorial prologue is like really long and in depth, but it's good. I'm seeing all the different things I can do, and there's even proficiencies, weapons. Bro, it's like the classes.
Permadeath?
It's yes, I believe so. Believe permadeath. Also, the thing that I saw that was they got like these classes that, like, there was a jetpack guy, you can go up on these high structures, and then the alien different variants with the aliens and how deadly they are. There's a lot to it, man.
Nice.
It's really deeper than I thought it was. So I'm still early in, but yeah, it's got me.
It looked really good. I remember when it was first coming out, it had my attention, and Carrick reviewed it, and I think he thought it was pretty good. When the Behemoth Edition rolled around, I was offered like a paid promotion for it, but I don't feel comfortable doing those anymore. I did them last year, and I think that I tried one this year, and it just didn't feel right. And so I was just sort of left that behind. I was like, I'll play this on my own time. And I really want to try it out. So to hear that you've enjoyed it a lot. I mean, October has been so good. There's been so many sneaky good releases where it's just so hard to pick and play. Like, I still want to see if I can go through all the Halo campaigns, like time's ticking on that. So it's like, I gotta be really, really picky, especially with these reviews, right? Like Far Cry, it's 25.
Then you got reviews,
25 hours in Far Cry, dude. That's like 3 Halo games right there. So, I gotta be wise.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that sounds really good. So is there, you mentioned like the percentages. Have you had that moment yet where it's like 90 and you take the shot and you're like, 10% chance just happened right now?
Yeah, bro, it's classic. It's classic. But what I do like, they do a better job of when you're behind cover, really even taking away body parts and stuff because you're behind cover as a benefit, and vice versa for the enemy. So they just do a really good job of that stuff. And there's so many other little things that you could do with the combat layer that is just superior to XCOM on some level.
Nice.
So I'm not gonna front.
I'd like to hear that.
He really thought outside the box on the basic gameplay loop of an XCOM game. So yeah, like I said, I just want to see more of it. I don't want to say, obviously, I'm not deep enough to go, okay, it's definitively better than XCOM, but I will say the weakest part I feel where XCOM beats this is I feel XCOM's narrative is a little better and more engaging. You know what I'm saying? The cinema was kind of like, okay, all right, why are we doing this again? Kind of thing. But as far as the gameplay, which is what you're there for, he on it right now.
All right. I like that.
Shout out to the OG Julian Gallup.
Of course, I like that. I like that. What did they add in the Behemoth edition, by the way, compared to the original?
Like it's like 3 or 4 DLCs,
Mm,
classes, weapons,
wow.
content, then there's factions, bro.
Oh,
There's like faction and you gotta appease to certain thing. It is way deep.
wow.
Way deep. Yeah, it's a
I gotta look into
lot
this a
to
little bit
this
more.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, please check it out, bro. You turn based, you gotta check. I'm telling you, within the first 5-10 minutes of just the game is as you play, it's
Mhm.
introducing things to you subtly. Oh, by the way, if you could do this, you do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? And it's way deeper than I
Yeah.
expected. I'm like, oh, okay. I highly advise you check it out. Just throw it on for at least an hour or 2 hours just
I
to see how
want
you
them
feel.
to do a re-release with like new content of it's that Cold War game you and I talked about that's like XCOM.
Phantom Doctrine.
Yes, I want
It's
them
my
to
baby.
give that another shot. I know that
I
that's
still
been
play
a
that.
really dude, it's a good game.
It's a good game.
It needed a little bit more, I thought.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I wanna see them do another version of that. I think was it you and I who we
Yeah,
talked about
I
the
told you, I got inside baseball
yeah,
on that one
yeah.
because yeah, like the dev, there was a breakup between them and the publisher. There's a Phantom Doctrine tube, and I'm never going to tell anyone don't support a game. I'm never going to do that. But just be clear that this Phantom Doctrine 2 that will eventually come out is not being made by the original team. It's the publisher with someone else.
Mm,
And the original team, the head dev, who I have a good relationship with, he told me, and he didn't even say it off the record because he kind of low key, he publicly took a shot like, yo, that ain't us.
mm,
We doing this. So he said to look out for him in early 2022,
okay.
and he'll have more to talk about in reference to the Phantom Doctrine style, that Cold War, that
Yeah.
spy, that espionage. I love. I used to wear my little disguises.
Mhm.
I'd go inside.
Yeah,
You could brainwash, manipulate.
dude,
But
they
I
make a
I
mechanic.
want Phantom Doctrine on Game
I
Pass.
think it would do well there.
Yeah, yeah. But I just probably a situation where I don't know who's going to get the bag, right?
Mhm.
Because they're not. So it may be
Yeah,
the behind the scenes aspect. But yeah,
for
that's
sure.
another one.
All right. Well, there's our Game Pass pick. It's time for the 5 final patron questions. First one goes to Kickstand. I listened to an interview with Todd Howard recently where he discussed how Morrowind was pivotal to the success of the original Xbox and even the
Mhm,
hardware design, I didn't know this part, of the 360, which was impacted by requirements for Oblivion. Of course,
mhm.
Skyrim was a blockbuster and hadn't stopped selling in 10 years. Besides resources, why do you think, after all these years, there hasn't been an effort to bring those older titles to a new audience? Instead of re releasing Skyrim with fishing, wouldn't it be cool to get an Elder Scrolls collection with those 3 games remastered on console? I know it's a massive undertaking, but I'd have to imagine the return on investment would still be huge. It's not something they couldn't contract out to another studio. Hell, fans are doing it with Skywind mods. For me, Oblivion specifically opened a world of what gaming could be. I'm kind of disappointed that game hasn't gotten a proper release. Obviously, more re-release. Sorry, obviously Morrowind also. They're locked on their respective hardware.
Maddie, you got to set this off. I'm dying to hear
Mm.
your points.
Yeah, man. It's really the fact that these mods exist for each of the things that he's spoken about. There's Sky Oblivion, Sky Wind, as Kickstand stated. I know Todd Howard has gone on the record of saying we want to leave those original games as they are. So when people try to sell you on the game, you can just take it. And like with Xbox back compat, you can take the disc for Morrowind, you can take the disc for Oblivion, put it in your Xbox, call it there. And they don't want to touch that. And I respect that to some extent. That while Bethesda's had their missteps with Fallout 4 to a small extent, and obviously Fallout 76 to a much bigger extent, that they want to try things and that they don't rest on their past like I think so many other companies. But because they don't, I feel the demand has gotten strong. We've talked about Fallout to death, so I won't go back to that. But
Yeah.
with Elder Scrolls, I find it very surprising because, yes, as Kickstand said, you're re-releasing Skyrim again. I think that's fine, but it would be really nice to see Oblivion get touched up a little bit, Morrowind to get touched up a little bit. And I have this working theory
Let's go.
that Xbox is going to evolve FPS Boost into something that's going to
Ooh,
affect these titles in back compat.
ooh,
And
okay.
I think you're going to start to see now Oblivion and Morrowind will run at 60 FPS. But not only that, there's got to be a way for them to scale up the resolution.
Yes,
That's the biggest thing holding
please,
them back.
please.
If they can find that out. Now you've got Xbox effectively doing remasters for older titles
Yes.
as a part, if they continue what FPS did for free, by the way. And if they can do that, then it makes your competition look so foolish, specifically Nintendo, because Nintendo with Skyward Sword HD, it did add the fast travel and all that stuff with the amiibo.
Shout out to the amiibo.
Yeah, right. Shout out to the amiibo. But
shout out to Pig for fast travel.
I think it's a massive, I want to say moral win, but you're gonna win some strong loyalty with that. So I feel like that's where they're gonna go with it. And it's why Bethesda hasn't dipped back into that. Where Skyrim, they know people will buy, kind of like Rockstar knows people will buy GTA 5 again. But yeah, I don't know why Bethesda has this hard on for just saying no, we're not gonna go back and touch these at all. Especially Morrowind. Morrowind, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just Morrowind is so definitive for them as a company. It's the reason they are alive today. It should be celebrated for that alone. But it was a major title on the original Xbox. And I'm not saying we need to remake it, but this game being brought back with some bells and whistles would be massive. And there are plenty of people who, like myself included, by the way, I've put like probably 40 hours into Morrowind, which really isn't that much in the scheme of things. And the reason why is because even I, as a major BGS fan, I think it's a little aimless at times. It's, you got to keep checking your journal, checking the name of roads and streets. And there's something immersive about that that's very incredible for its time period. Right. But nowadays, I don't need always a map marker, but there's got to be a little bit more guidance that graphically could be done, by the way. It doesn't even have to be on the map. It just could be done graphically, so I could tell when I'm on a different road. I can read the signs properly. It's not only that, but it's the combat a little bit. Combat in Elder Scrolls has historically sucked. In Morrowind, I think it's its worst because they're skill checking every attack. So you're whiffing, even though an enemy's right in front of you. There's a way to do skill checks without making combat feel like shit. I know it sucks to hear from Morrowind fans. I know, but that's how it is. And so these two things alone, I think, would justify Morrowind existing again. One requires a deeper reworking of skill, so I understand why that's less appealing. But I just think it is eventually going to be time to bring these back, and I don't know why they have yet to.
I agree. Well said. I think it's so key to their legacy. And again, I was talking earlier about that organic growth. This was what made Bethesda. I remember seeing one of my friends had that Morrowind game when he OJ Xbox, and I was like, man, this was daunting. I was like, this is the most complex, but it was so cool, all the possibilities and the things that was happening at the time. So the significance of it is vital. It's vital to them. So they need to celebrate that. But for me personally, my heart will always be with Oblivion. Yeah. Oblivion made me honestly a Western RPG fan. Like, now that I think about it, I remember those Daedric Gates and the base of Malog Ball and going back and forth. And I remember just being so amazed by that. What do you call it? Like the justice system or government system. You steal, the guard comes up to you, hey, what's going on? You're like, yo, that's good. Like, it was just an amazing thing. And I was just really blown away. The Oblivion Gates and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, I love this. I was addicted. I beat that. I played that whole thing. I was very proud of those achievements on 360. So, and then to hear, like I said, shout out to Kickstand, with just saying, how the 360 was designed around it. Because if people don't remember, Oblivion and a lot of those Bethesda games they had issues on PS3 and they didn't come. And it came down to a lot of it sometimes was the hardware. And this also ties in to if you remember when Cliffy and those guys at Coalition made Gears, there was a 360, and Peter Moore told this story. It was a 360 with a sort of 256 RAM or whatever, and a 360 with a 512, whatever the 360 ended up becoming hardware spec wise finalized. And they played Gears on it and said, look, if you sacrifice this is what you're going to get, but this is how it could look with this. And that was the sell for, more to go to Bomber and say, hey, we kind of got to spend a little, because we really would miss the mark here if we don't have that. So to hear that story with Oblivion, really, this is historic stuff. That's what I try to tell people. There is a relationship with this company, and I want these games, Celebrate. These are iconic games. Remaster. You said it perfectly. We got the FPS boost. Put that resolution bump. Do a little couple of tweaks. You ain't got to go full remaster, but you could do something, right? Like to me, it's a goal. I do think it will happen because of the acquisition. I just think it's a priority thing. And we know they could do things on the back end and also auto HDR and all this stuff.
Right.
So I think it will happen. I think it will happen. That's my gut. Is just, knowing Xbox, it's when it's actually going to be ready on a priority standpoint. And then they'll probably do a bulk of them and be like, yo, all these Bethesda joints, you know what I'm saying? Right now. And then it'll be a nice Xbox Wire news post and everybody will be excited, to do it. So I see it happening.
I agree with you. And funny enough, I think Oblivion, I liked Western RPGs. I think Oblivion's what made me fall in love with it. That was my first.
That was it for me. Yeah. And then Skyrim was just goddamn. Oh my God.
I know.
This is, oh my God. Just the title screen alone and the chance. I was
did I ever tell you a story on how I failed a class because of Skyrim? I actually, I completely read articles all class about it and I failed. So.
Bro, I used to score that map and them dwarven ruins and the Delta. I would just explore. It would just talking to people like, yo, did you go to this place with And if he would tell you their story, and those are the days. Hours, bro, hours and hours, and then you get in those spells and the amazing RPG mechanics. Some of the best. I fell in love, but I owe Bethesda a lot. I fell in love with Western RPGs because of them, and from then it just took off for me. But
man, the hatred for them got really strong with Fallout 4 and 76. And while I understand that, and my disappointment with them was extremely high, I would never hate them. I think they've just done too much in the long run. When we pull out from the damage of 76 and what it did to that license, even that alone, it's you've made Fallout 3, you've made Skyrim, you've made Oblivion, you've made Morrowind. These are games that changed lives, mine included. So
it made the channel.
Right. It really did. All right. Next question goes to Anthony. Hey, Dukes. In a world where there are so many live service shooters, do you think Halo Infinite will stick around? Many of these games come and go, and I think Halo will have something to offer that's unique to stay relevant longer than the long-rumored 300-person Battle Royale mode. Loving the show. Keep it up, gents. Does 343 and Halo Infinite hang or not?
It's a good question. Look, the core gameplay is there. We know it. The thing is going to be they do have to do things to keep you coming back. And as stuff goes on, it's going to be key for them. They have enough from a core. I'm not worried. I do feel, obviously, the Battle Pass stuff, that's going to be key. The maps are going to be key. Do they bring Warzone back? Right? That's another thing. Warzone
question.
Back. Forge is going to be a little late. That's going to come. To me, they're going to have to keep a regular cadence of engaging content, whether it be quarterly or a roadmap. You don't want them to get lost in the cycle when the next big thing comes out. And that's the gamers are fickle, but free to play is huge. It really is. It really is. So all signs kind of point to them being around, especially with that foundation as good as it is, as it seems, as long as there's no major snafu since. I think they just got to do the battle pass, the monetization right, content drops timely. They could have it. This could be around for a long time.
Yeah,
but it's up to them. And of course, I do want Battle Royale. I don't care. I want Battle Royale. I'm not anti-Battle Royale for this game, only because even though I'm not a Battle Royale dude, I know what Battle Royale does. There's that generation that are not Halo fans. They are not, they're never going. But if you throw Halo Infinite's Warzone equivalent, you may get a group that may have never tried Halo. So I say, hey, why not? When it's ready, do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a game where Battle Royale makes sense, and I think they should eventually do it. I don't think out the gate they should. I think they should make sure they have a core that is very much Halo. I'm saying deliver Forge, deliver co-op, make sure everything's there. The modes that maybe are missing, I'm just saying hypothetically, let's say SWAT's not there, make sure SWAT's there. Complete the Halo playlist, then bring that experience
Agreed.
TBR. There's a long life to this game in my eyes, so take your time with it. I do agree, though. I think it's going to be determined on how often they're pumping out content compared to their competitors. I also think monetization is going to play a big factor. And if it's really egregious, I know it may just be cosmetics, but if it's just really in your face or it's just really annoying and it's constant and you feel like you're not making progress, you feel like every time you turn the corner, you got to spend money, I think that'll hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
I do think that'll hurt a little bit. And eventually you'd just be stuck with the hardcore fans who have paid money and are willing to stay, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But I do think just in the world of live service shooters, you've got to, more than anything, just be pumping out content and not cosmetic unlocks. So they've got to be hitting with every cosmetic unlock. I want a new mode or map or something like that. Obviously, that's not realistic, but I'm just saying I want them to keep up a strong pace with that and not loosen up at all, even if it's seasonal.
Agreed.
All right. Next, we got Gavin Alexander. Hey, Dukes, Matty, I checked out your new retro channel and instantly subscribed. Thank you, by the way. Retro Rebound, for those who haven't. Go ahead, check it out.
Get to it.
Retro gaming as a whole in my video game knowledge, and your channel is just what I needed to reignite my interest in the topic. Along the retro gaming lines, I have a question for you both. Have either of you played Area 51 for the original Xbox or PS2? Area 51 is my favorite FPS of all time, if not my favorite video game of all time. It was way ahead of its time when it was released in 2005, and it had graphics that still hold up today. A great story and an amazing cast, including, I might fuck up some of these. Is this first name? David Duchovny? No, I don't know. I don't know who that is, man.
Oh yeah.
We got Marilyn Manson, Ian Abercrombie. That's a hell of a name, bro. That sounds like a model.
Yes.
Powers Booth and Nolan North. Matty, you were able to will a Knights of the Old Republic remake into existence. Now I ask you to do the same for Area 51. I would love at least a remaster of this game, and I think it will fill the void of a multi-platform sci-fi horror shooter. The problem is that this series was owned by now defunct developer and publisher Midway Games. Nobody is sure where the rights to the game have ended up, and I once read that they may have ended up in the hands of the U.S. Air Force for some reason. Anyways, it's a great game to return to. If you don't want to play it, it's fascinating to research, especially in today's UFO climate. As always, have a great day.
Yeah.
You heard of this one?
Interesting. I had never heard of it.
Yeah,
I had to go research it.
Same.
I was like, what is this? It looked interesting. It did. You know, it had like the little squad based, you know, as you go deeper in the area. I like the concept of it. The concept of it was kind of interesting. Then you kind of lose people as you go along. It gets into this deeper story or whatever. You know, the people associated with the game is just wild. Like, I was just like, this is
Midway.
a very... Yeah, Midway threw some money, I guess, at this, and they were trying to get it. But yeah, I don't know if Matty's got the power to do this one for you, bro.
This is really buried. And if the U.S. Air Force has it, oh my God, man. What do they want to do with a fucking remaster of some kind?
Yeah, bro. Like, I hope, you know, prospects ain't looking too promising here. So, yeah, I don't think so. What you think with this?
It looks cool. It looks cool, but it definitely looks like a buried, hidden gem that will just be a product of its time. But then again, like Battle for Bikini Bottom coming back, like I know obviously Nickelodeon's still around, so it was possible, but that just to me is always the shining example of like, wait, what? Like this is actually coming back? And what's interesting is Area 51's not even that expensive complete in box online. Like I'm looking at it now, it's like $20 for PS2. And I mean, that's nothing. Yeah, right. It's weird because sometimes there are niche games that you see and you're like, of course, that's a lot of money. Makes sense. This is one I've never heard of. Can't imagine it did super well. It's like $20. Okay. All right. I'll give it a shot. I wanted this December, you know, during my little holiday break, get into my retro bag a little bit.
Get your retro bag. Yeah.
No worries about the new releases. Just get into those Game Boy games that I love. PS2 games.
Classic.
I always wish I had more time for those. And
I know.
Just want to pepper them in more and more. Bro. Yeah, it's important to stay up with the times, but just that there are so many sitting on my shelf that I love and I want to just play that are staring me in the face every time I come in my room. And I'm like, I'm so happy I have you, but I want to play you. It bugs me so much.
I'm with you, bro. Same problem.
Anthony Vasquez is our final question for this episode. Hi, Dukes. I've been reading some articles now that Halo Infinite's flight has ended, suggesting that Halo could ship this holiday without the campaign and still be a mega hit. Is this type of, quote, journalism, end quote, irresponsible? Personally, Halo should come out as feature-rich as possible, and since we haven't even seen the campaign since last year, it makes me kind of worried. Anyway, thanks for everything you guys do at Last Stand, Ham, ILP, etc. Sorry, we do have one more question after this. I missed that.
You good? Yeah, shout out to Anthony. It's interesting because I think I've seen Anthony on Twitter, so shout out to him.
Mm-hmm.
Irresponsible journalism. I'm not gonna say it's irresponsible. I just think that we talked about this on Duke Ultimate, that the benefit of the flight being so well is now you can bring up these type of separation comments with more merit, right?
Yeah.
Because if this doesn't land, I don't think we're having that kind of conversation. I'm of them. We still are going to stand on our square. I mean, at least I'm going to stand on my square with. I always going to want the entire feature set, feature rich, beefy, ultimate thing. However, we did say on Ultimate, because for those who didn't listen, that if there was a scenario where the campaign team internally says, look, see the bulletin board, these are the deadlines, we ain't gonna make it. We've got all these things and all these issues. Under that circumstance, I think you brought this up, Matty. I am with you. Then at that point, I will be accepting of a split and they bring the multiplayer for it. But overall, unless it's some dire consequence, I just want the package. I want the ideal thing. I want the, me. I still take my delay. I want my campaign co-op at launch. I would like the Forge or whatever at launch, and then just do it right. Just do it right one time, and that's it. Most likely, it's still going to come out without campaign, without Forge, and we're still going to play it, and we're going to have fun. But that's where I'm at with this. But I don't know if it's irresponsible journalism. I don't know if I want to get your feeling on that portion of what Anthony said.
Yeah, I don't think it's irresponsible to have an opinion. Like, I funny enough, I actually just talked about what I think is irresponsible. I made a whole video talking about how there were a lot of weird nitpicks with the Halo Infinite flight, and it's not exempt of any criticism. But I mean, people were like shooting fruit, crawling through plants. They were popping the tires on warthogs to display just how it's not as detailed as you thought it was. Just overall detracting from the conversation in what was a pretty technically sound, strong flight. And we could talk weapon balance and all that stuff, but I thought it was a really strong case for like, yeah, this game feels ready. It feels good for launch. Like we're gonna be fine on the multiplayer front. We'll see about the campaign.
Absolutely.
Kotaku comes in afterwards. Of course, it's fucking Kotaku. And they talk about how it's a buggy mess and all this shit. I'm like, this just look. You can document your experience all you want, but like it's these. By the way, their article interestingly was kind of positive. It's these baity, stupid headlines.
Baity headlines, yeah,
which don't accurately reflect their experience because they're dying, and so they need all the clicks they can get. So they need to get you in there. They need to get people talking about them. They game the algorithm. They get back on their feet. It's what they're trying to do right now. It's clear as day as someone who's been doing this for years.
You know the vibes.
Their journalism is irresponsible because it feeds that sensationalism that we were talking about in that video, where you're validating these morons online who are shooting the fruit and saying, well, Halo Infinite's not quite there because I can crawl through this plant. And then they see a headline from just a outlet. Doesn't matter if you're Kotaku. They see that and they're like, yep, see. You got to be responsible with what you're representing.
Yeah, it's feeding this angry mob. And it's just like, again, we talked about the top of the show, the goals for the show and stuff like that we have here with Duke. And it's just that, one thing I hate, like we said, is the concern trolling and being disingenuous. And a lot of it comes down to, we got to be honest, there's a certain subset of people that if it's not their platform, they have nothing to talk about. Their sole mission is to now pick something apart with this unholy standard, or the fake digital foundry dudes, the dudes who want to find some little imperfection or a frame rate counter, and you see it's barely, as if that somehow lessens the experience, as if it's not fun. And that's the part that's sad, because people are taking this much energy and time out their day to try to disparage something instead of just enjoying gaming. And that's where the part of gaming that has devolved that I can't stand. I'm not here for that. I just either mute that stuff, and like I told you, 10 tweet rule. I look at the 10 tweets. If you got 10 tweets and you talk about another game and ripping this and ripping another platform, and that's all you on Twitter and all you on social media doing all day, you are out of here on my timeline, bro. I don't want to see none of that.
That, or if your favorite console's in your bio. That's a quick way to lose me. I will, if I see you and I click on your profile, you've said something to me, and I see your console in the bio, you're not getting a reply from me. Like, that's just how it works. You'll never interact with me ever if you have your console in your bio. I'm sorry, but like, that's not telling your bio. It's about you, and your console is about you. Really, really, man. Like, I don't care. I don't care what you have to say at that point.
I can't put my Series X and talk to you.
No, not that. By the way, I'm not trying to sound like so egotistical. Like you want to talk to me. You need to talk. I understand. I'm just saying, if you respond to me in the hopes, or you tweet at me and you're hoping like you're gonna get a response out of me because you're trying to be thought provoking, and I look and I see that in your bio and be like, yeah, okay, that's all I need to know. That's all there is to it,
bro. I feel you,
bro. We profile check before we respond. Just know that. Just know if I've responded to you, I've taken a scroll through. And thought like, all right, I'll respond to you.
Fair enough.
VRG is up next. We know very little about Avowed at this moment, but rumor has it that this may appear at the Game Awards. Therefore, I would appreciate if you guys would dig into your expectations for the game. Do you expect it to be like Skyrim? Will it have a larger scope than the Outer Worlds? What would you like to see in the game?
Ooh, this is my baby right here. This is the one from them that when I saw this and I saw that hand and that spell, and we talk Pillars of Eternity world, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm very, very hyped for this. You know, will it be their version of Skyrim is the question, right? Is it going into that bag? I'm not sure. I mean, I get vibes, right? But I'm not sure. I've always of the fan, we've talked about this, I'm not anti-hub world. So if it's not, I guess my question to you, Matty, I'm going to flip it back, is that if it is not full open world Skyrim-esque, does Matty take points from Avowed?
No. I actually would probably be a little more excited, to tell you the truth.
Oh, okay.
I love Obsidian and hubs, but if they tried open world, which they went semi-open world like Monarch and the Outer Worlds, I'd be for that. I'm really not concerned about Avowed at all. Like, if it'll be good or bad. I've heard really good things from people who have seen it. So
you heard things too? Okay, I can say it.
Okay. So, I'm not really concerned about this game. I know Obsidian has been scarily consistent as of late. When they nailed, to me, it was the telling point was when they nailed Grounded. I was like, they are just on a roll right now, right? They've even diversified, and they're dropping a cool update called like Hot and Hazy, which is going to add like RPG elements to it. It looks awesome.
Nice.
And I'm just seeing them nail that beyond what they're known for. And I'm like, yeah, this is a sign of a really good studio. So I feel very confident with Avowed. I've heard great things about it. So I imagine it will reappear at the Game Awards, like we pretty much reported last week. And I think it's just a very safe bet at this point in time. I expect it to have Skyrim vibes to some extent, just by the world. You got to realize how long these trailers take to make, and that choice of the spell and the sword and in the cave, they knew what they were doing. Very Skyrim inspired, very much so. So I feel like, it's gonna probably be their take on Skyrim, if you will. There's a reason why they're not calling it Pillars or something like that. They're calling it Avowed. It's because they want to separate that, but set in the world of Pillars. But here's the thing. It's an easy pitch to sell people on the game and to explain your game to potential investors. Like, if you go to Xbox and you say, we're making our own Skyrim, you know what that is. You say that to a fan, it's a Skyrim game. You know what that is. It's so important to have that easy tagline attached to your game that makes it easy to describe. because when you start to have a very complex game, like I don't think I could do that with Far Cry. Like I could say it's checklist open world, and there's this, and that. I just don't think I could do that. So it's very underrated, both in game development, but also in conversations, that little tagline, what that can do for a game. I think the scope will definitely be larger for the Outer Worlds. I think that much is certain. Gotcha. This is like a full-on AAA game, so.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Yeah. I'm excited.
What would you like to see in this?
Great spellcasting, combat. I want to make sure that combat solid is tight. That's the only little, if we go on nitpick with our beloved, Skyrims and stuff like that, is that, some my Bethesda haters that be coming at me when I put Skyrim and Ghost at, oh, you mean the butter knife sword? No, they be disrespectful. So I want a little visceral if you can, get a little visceral with it. And just like, I'm always into spells and stuff like that. And one thing in that small little, thing, I just like the visual representation of it and stuff like that. So I want spell diversity. I want to see how far they go with that. And just the different type of archetypes and combat styles. Obviously, hopefully your traditional mage, knight, paladin, that kind of stuff. Or is it going to be shield, armor, one-handed sword combat? The tropes, the two-handed. Right. Are we going to have that kind of thing? And all that stuff, I really like. So I'm curious about. I'm not worried about narrative. I'll be honest. Like it's Obsidian. Like Obsidian, like you said, they have shown me time and time again not to even worry about that aspect. That is the part that's going to be strong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All I want to see is that combat and how expansive it was. And yeah, if the narrative is truly gripping in the Pillars universe,
absolutely,
which I, fully expect it to be.
Of course.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that'll probably be around 2023, and then we'll see the game shortly, I imagine. So
yeah, man.
That's all we got for this episode of Defining Duke, however, Cog.
Yeah,
been another good one.
Good one.
We hit with the hashtag.
We had a very diverse.
Wasn't one thing we really hung on for too long when you think about it.
Yeah. What one thing? We had some tangents. with trying to look back. There was one I thought we did have one, but we were kind of like even with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Like we kind of bounced a little bit.
So what you want to do? You want to do bounce? You want to do even?
Yeah, I like bounce, DD. I think that's a good representation of this episode. You got this, Steve. Let us know. We bounced around a lot for sure.
Yeah, we bounced around. There was a lot of bounce.
Yeah, we were a little basketball here.
Yeah, a little bounce.
So yeah, if you got this deep, let us know in the comments with hashtag BounceDD or tag us on Twitter at LordCognito at G27status. Let us know that you have completed this episode. You've put another notch on your belt for the Defining Duke.
Exactly.
We look forward to hearing from you. Cog, any final additions, or shall we wrap this up?
Wrapping up. Loved it. Another fantastic show. Liked our little segment like that. We listened, right, Matty? We listened to the fans, took the feedback, add some stuff, add a little dynamic to it. So yeah, great episode as always.
100%.
And you're doing a fantastic job with these question picking. And
Thank you.
You wasn't, biased like you normally are with who you pick.
I know.
Because you're so damn biased, man. You're always picking the same two people, and I'm tired of it.
I love picking certain patrons.
I'm done.
Anyway, we appreciate you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week for episode 41. Until then, have an all right day.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.